On the day I was dying, the Marquis demanded with red-rimmed eyes. Why didn't you send word of your illness? I ignored him. He roared. Just because I chose to save Qingwan and let our son drown. Will you hate me for a lifetime? When I opened my eyes again, I was back to 3 days before Zhao died. Hello everyone. Welcome to Empress Revenge Stories. Let's begin. On the day I was dying, the Marquis demanded with red-rimmed eyes why I hadn't sent word of my grave illness. I ignored him. He roared. Just because I chose to save Qingwan and let our son drown. Will you hate me for a lifetime? The child's last words were, Father, why didn't you save me? I lay in the side courtyard with a high fever for 7 days. What came was not medicine, but his interrogation. I, Xin Zhaoning, am done playing this game of domestic scheming. On the 7th day of my fever, I smelled decay, not from my body had long since burned into a piece of dead wood, flesh and skin clinging to bone, without even the strength to turn over. What was rotting was this room. The side courtyard's chamber had not been repaired in 3 years. Water seeped through the corners. Bedding grew moldy. The bowl of medicine on the table had been spoiled for 2 days. When Chui'er, my mute maid, brought it, I didn't take it. It just sat there, a dark, filthy bowl, as if scooped from a gutter. Chui'er crouched by the bed, pressing a damp cloth to my forehead. She couldn't speak, but her eyes were bright. There was resentment in them. I understood her resentment. The legitimate wife of the Zhenyuan Ho mansion, the eldest legitimate daughter of the Xin family, reduced to waiting for death. Dependent on a mute maid. I was waiting to die. On the day Zhao died 3 years ago, I was already dead. When the door was kicked open, I thought it was the wind. The autumn wind was indeed strong. It rushed in, knocking over the medicine bowl on the table. Brown liquid spilled across the table, dripping to the floor. Chui'er was startled. She turned to look, and then froze. I struggled to lift my eyelids. Lu Yanzhou stood in the doorway. 3 years had passed. He had aged. The lines at the corners of his eyes were like knife cuts. His temples had grayed. His armor was stained with mud and blood, as if he had just rushed back from the battlefield. He stood there, backlit. I couldn't see his expression, but I could hear his breathing, heavy, urgent, as if he had ridden several horses to death. Marquis. I silently recited the title. It felt unfamiliar. 3 years. 3 years ago, he had carried Lu Qingwan away from the pond, leaving behind the bubbles where Zhao had sunk. Since then, I had never called out to him again, and he had never come to find me. The entire mansion knew that a madwoman, the legitimate wife, was locked in the side courtyard. Whoever mentioned her was asking for trouble. Xin Zhaoning. He rushed over, knocking over a stool. Chui'er stumbled backward, colliding with the wall, letting out a hoarse, aha, sound. I didn't move. It wasn't that I didn't want to, I couldn't. After 7 days of high fever, my joints felt rusted. I couldn't even turn my head. Lu Yanzhou threw himself to the bedside and seized my wrist. His hands were large, his knuckles prominent, calloused from years of wielding swords and blades. He gripped so tightly I thought he would crush my bones. But I couldn't even feel the pain anymore. He looked down at my face. I didn't need a mirror to know what I looked like. Sallow skin, cracked lips, sunken eye sockets, a skeleton that hadn't yet stopped breathing. Every day, Chui'er wiped my body, and flakes of skin came off with each wipe. A 27-year-old woman who looked 57. His hands trembled. His voice trembled too. Why didn't you send word to me? I looked at him and said nothing. His eyes were red, glistening with tears. His Adam's apple bobbed as if he were holding something back. He asked again, why didn't you have someone from the mansion send word to me? You're dying. Xin Zhaoning. You're dying. Do you know that? I knew. Better than anyone. 7 days ago, my fever began. Chui'er ran to the main mansion to find a doctor, but the gatekeeper stopped her, saying that Lady Lu had ordered that no one from the side courtyard was allowed to set foot in the main compound. Chui'er knelt for an hour. Finally, an old nanny by the old madam's side took pity on her and secretly gave her a packet of medicine. It was the wrong medicine. Drinking it made the fever worse. The next day, Chui'er climbed over the wall to find a doctor. The doctor refused to come. Who in the city didn't know the name of the Jinyuanho mansion? Saving the legitimate wife meant offending the favored concubine, not worth it. On the third day, I told Chuyer to stop trying. It was useless. On the fourth day, I couldn't even get out of bed. On the fifth day, I began to cough up blood. Chuyer wept as she wiped it away, staying awake all night. On the sixth day, I felt the end was near and began to think of how I would look in death. On the seventh day, he came. What perfect timing. Xinjiaoning. Speak. He roared. His voice exploded in the empty room, sending dust raining down from the beams. I looked into his eyes. I had seen those eyes on my first day in this house. It was our wedding night. He had lifted my red veil, and his eyes had been full of a young general's pride and vigor. He had said to me, "Zhaoning, I will be good to you." Good. So good that on the very day Lu Qingwan entered the mansion, he vacated my main courtyard and gave it to her. So good that when Lu Qingwan said she had a headache, he took my ginseng soup and gave it to her. So good that when Lu Qingwan cried, he had the handmaidens my family had sent as part of my dowry sold off in the middle of the night. So good that on the day Zhaoer fell into the pond, he was only 10 paces away. He heard Zhaoer screaming. He saw the little hand thrashing in the water. He turned his head and looked. Then he jumped in and saved Lu Qingwan. Lu Qingwan had jumped in herself. I found out later, she had arranged for someone to push Zhaoer into the water, then jumped into another part of the pond, screaming for help. Lu Yanzhou had chosen Lu Qingwan between the two drowning people because Qingwan couldn't swim, and Zhaoer could. A 3-year-old child, pond 3 meters deep, could swim. On my sickbed, I laughed. Lu Yanzhou froze at the sound of my laughter. He tightened his grip on my wrist and stood there like a stone statue. I laughed and laughed, then began to cough. The blood I coughed up splattered onto the back of his hand, a bright red spot. He panicked. "Someone, call a doctor." No one answered. There were no servants in the side courtyard, only Chuyer. Chuyer squatted in the corner, hugging her knees, staring at Lu Yanzhou with eyes full of hatred. She couldn't speak, but her gaze was more venomous than any curse. I said, "Call a doctor." Lu Yanzhou shouted toward the door, his voice cracking. Still no one came. This side courtyard was in the most remote corner of the mansion, 3 gates away from the main compound, separated from Lu Qingwan's courtyard by an entire garden. Lu Qingwan had blocked all the paths to this place. No one dared come. No one would come. The old madam was too old to interfere. Lu Yanzhou had been away for 3 years, and everyone in the mansion listened to Lu Qingwan. He shouted until only the wind answered. Finally, he realized something was wrong. "Where are your maids?" He turned to look at me. "How is it that you only have this mute? Where are the nannies assigned to you? The serving maids?" I wanted to say, "They were all sent away by your precious Qingwan," but I no longer had the strength to speak. The fever had dried up my throat. It felt like sandpaper, and every word was like swallowing a blade. I didn't speak. I just looked at him, straight into his eyes, and kept looking. He couldn't bear the weight of my gaze. He let go of my wrist abruptly, stood up, and began to pace. His boots made dull thuds on the green bricks. He walked to the window, then back, to the door, glanced outside, then back. Chuyer stood up and positioned herself in front of my bed, arms outstretched like a mother hen protecting her chick. Lu Yanzhou looked at her, his face dark. "Move aside." Chuyer didn't move. I said, "Move aside." He shoved her. She stumbled and hit the bedpost. Her forehead split open, blood streaming down her face. She didn't make a sound. She picked herself up and stood in front of me again. "Chuyer," I called her. She turned to look at me, tears and blood mingling on her face. I wanted to smile at her, but my lips were too cracked. I said only 2 words. "Go out." Chuyer didn't move. "Go out," I said again, my voice as light as a breeze. Chuyer bit her lip. Blood seeped through the gaps in her teeth. She knelt and kowtowed 3 times, then stood up and stumbled out, closing the door behind her. The room fell silent. Only Lu Yanzhou and I remained. He stood at the foot of the bed, his hand gripping the knife at his waist, knuckles white. He looked at me for a long time, so long I thought he would turn and leave. He didn't. He walked back to the bedside and sat down. He reached out to touch my forehead. I turned my head away. His hand hung in the air, then withdrew. Zhao. He called my name. I didn't answer. I know you hate me. He lowered his head, his voice dropping too. I know I've wronged you these 3 years. I fought in the borderlands for 3 years. Every battle risking my life. Sometimes I thought I'd be better off dead, then I wouldn't have to think about what was happening at home. His voice was hoarse with guilt. But I didn't die. I came back. I want to talk with you properly. Talk. My voice was so hoarse I could barely be heard. About what? About Qingwan. He paused. She did save my life. After all, back then at the border, without her, I would have died long ago. She has a debt of gratitude from me. I can't forget that. But you are my legitimate wife. That's something no one can change. He looked up at me. What do you want? Tell me. Whatever you want. I'll give it to you. I wanted Zhao to come back to life. I didn't say it. I stared at him for a long time, then pulled at the corners of my mouth and, with all the strength I had, screamed the words I had waited 3 years to say. Just because I chose to save Qingwan and let our son drown. Will you hate me for a lifetime? Let our son drown. He said. Let. He finally said that word. Not an accident. Not too late. Not that Zhao could swim. Let. He felt guilty. He knew he had caused it. I looked at this man, my husband, Zhao's father. He had once been the most dazzling young general in the capital, astride fine horses, full of youthful ambition. I had seen him from afar at the Lantern Festival when I was 12. Just one look, and I had married into the Jinyuan Ho mansion. I had arrived with a dowry of 10 li of red silk, full of joy, believing I had found someone to rely on for life. But the mountain crumbles when you lean on it, and people run when you lean on them. I smiled, using the very last of my strength. I pushed myself up from the bed, supporting myself on its edge. I was dizzy, and darkness flickered before my eyes. But I sat up. I looked into Lu Yenzhou's eyes and said, word by word, Lu Yenzhou, do you know what Zhao cried out when he was pushed into the water? His face went white. He cried. My voice trembled, not from fear, but from hatred. 3 years of accumulated hatred, like scalding oil, boiling over. Mama. Papa, save me. I mimicked Zhao's voice, a 3-year-old's baby voice. When he called, Mama, he drew out the last sound. When he called, Papa, he would grin. He loved calling, Papa, because Papa was a general, because Papa could ride horses, because Papa would lift him over his head and spin him around. That day, when he was pushed into the water, he thrashed desperately. He called for Papa. He thought Papa would surely come to save him. Papa was only 10 paces away. Papa heard him. Papa turned his head and looked. Papa saw that small hand. Then Papa jumped in and saved Lu Qingwan. He cried, Papa, why won't you save me? Finally, my tears fell. I thought after 3 years, I had cried myself dry. But when I spoke of Zhao, the tears wouldn't stop. He called out, Lu Yenzhou. He called out. Lu Yenzhou fell to his knees. His knees struck the floor with a dull thud. He hung his head, his shoulders shaking violently, tears falling one by one onto the ground. He reached out and grabbed the hem of my clothes, like a drowning man clutching driftwood, his whole body trembling. Zhao. Zhao. I was wrong. I was so wrong. Wrong. What good was wrong? Could it bring Zhao back? He had been only 3 when he died. He had never eaten a sugar-coated hawthorn stick. He had never ridden a pony. He had never had the chance to say, Mama, hold me. When they pulled him from the water, his belly was swollen, his face pale from soaking, his eyes half open, his little hand still clutching the embroidered pouch I had made for him. When I changed his clothes, I found a lump on the back of his head, a dent from when he was pushed into the water and struck a stone. He had been unconscious from the moment he hit the water. He hadn't thrashed at all. He couldn't swim. He was only 3 years old. Lu Yenzhou. I called him. He lifted his head, his face drenched in tears. I looked at him and slowly spoke my final words. The greatest regret of my life is marrying you. If there is a next life, I will never set foot in the Jinyuan Ho mansion again. His expression shifted from pain to terror. He lunged forward to embrace me. I closed my eyes. In the moment darkness swallowed me. I heard him crying like a child. Heart-wrenching sobs. He buried his face in my shoulder, his body trembling, over and over calling my name. Zhao. 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 I could no longer feel anything. My body grew lighter. The pain receded. The fever that had burned for 7 days flowed away like the tide. I floated upward and looked down. I saw a withered woman lying on a sickbed. Lu Yanzhou knelt beside her, crying like a madman. How ugly! Then I thought of Zhao. Zhao had died in autumn. The lotus leaves in the pond had withered. He had worn a blue jacket, one I had made for him, with a small lotus embroidered at the collar. He loved that jacket. He wouldn't take it off. He even slept in it. He had gone into the water wearing that jacket. When they pulled him out, the jacket was soaked through, clinging to his body. That little lotus was ruined. Mama will make you a new one. Mama will embroider a bigger lotus. Will you please come back? Won't you call me Mama one more time? No one answered. The wind stopped. Darkness surged in. My consciousness began to dissipate. Just before I disappeared entirely, a voice exploded in my mind, like thunder, like a cleaver, like 10,000 horses trampling the heavens and earth. I refuse to accept this. I refuse. Zhao died. Lu Qingwan lives. I was tormented to death. Lu Yanzhou lives. Unfair. Unfair. The darkness shattered. Light stabbed into my eyes. I snapped my eyes open, gasping for breath. My heart pounded like it would burst from my chest. My whole body was drenched in sweat. My clothes soaked through, clinging to my skin. I stared wide-eyed at the ceiling. It wasn't the moldy rafter of the side courtyard, it was an embroidered canopy. Suzhou embroidered hibiscus flowers, pale yellow tassels. This was the canopy I had brought with me on my wedding day. The canopy from when I first entered the Zhenyuan Ho mansion. Madam, what's wrong? A voice sounded at my ear, crisp, young, urgent. I jerked my head and saw a face, Chui'er, young Chui'er, the Chui'er whose leg had not been broken by Lu Qingwan's people. She could speak, could laugh, her voice as bright as a bell. She held a bowl of calming soup in her hands and looked at me with wide, round eyes. Madam, did you have a nightmare? You're drenched in sweat, you scared me to death. I opened my mouth. My voice came as if from a great distance. Chui'er, what day is it today? The 12th of August. Madam. Chui'er set the soup on the nightstand and wiped my sweat with a handkerchief. You've forgotten. Tomorrow is the Mid-Autumn Lake Tour banquet. The Marquis said he's taking you and Lady Lu along. The 12th of August. The Mid-Autumn Lake Tour banquet. The day Zhao died was the 15th of August. 3 days from now. Tears surged from my eyes. Unstoppable. Chui'er was terrified. She fumbled to wipe my tears. Madam, what's wrong? Don't scare me like this. I grabbed Chui'er's hand. I held it so tightly that Chui'er winced, but she didn't pull away. I looked at Chui'er's face, at her smooth forehead, unbruised, at her intact legs, unbroken, at her young, vibrant face. I had been reborn. The heavens had heard my refusal. I had returned to 3 days before Zhao's death. 3 days. I had only 3 days. I released Chui'er's hand, took a deep breath, and forced down the emotions surging inside me. Crying was useless. Panic was useless. In my past life, I had spent 3 years in bitter hardship to uncover all the truths. In this life, 3 days would be enough. Chui'er, my voice had steadied, steadier than a woman just awakened from a high fever should have been. Help me change. I need to go out. Go out. Where? To the Shin mansion. To see my brother. I threw back the covers and got out of bed. My legs were weak, but they held. I looked out the window. The sky was just beginning to lighten. The morning mist had yet to clear. A new day was beginning. At this time in my past life, I had been foolishly picking out hairpins for Lu Qingwan to wear to the banquet. In this life, I would settle accounts, one by one. Chui'er, I said as I dressed, don't bother sending for breakfast. Have the kitchen send the ingredients to the small kitchen. I'll cook myself. Chui'er stared. Madam, you can cook. The corner of my mouth lifted. In my past life, for 3 years in the side courtyard, no one sent me food. Chuer and I had gotten through 3 winters with just a small charcoal stove. I had learned to cook, to sew, to chop wood, to decoct medicine. I wouldn't wait for anyone's charity again. In this life, I would do everything myself. 3 days would be enough. Lu Yenzhou. Lu Qingwan. On the 15th of August, on the road back from the Shin mansion, the carriage would carry 1 extra bundle. My brother, Xin Zhaoyan, asked no questions. This man, who had crawled out of a mountain of corpses and a sea of blood, who was the deputy commander of the Imperial Guards, heard me say, "Brother, help me with a few things. Don't ask why." He paused only a moment, then nodded. He sent me 4 shadow guards, not ordinary guards, but his own trained assassins, skilled in concealment, tracking, and killing. I would send 3 to watch Lu Qingwan's courtyard and 1 to investigate her background before entering the mansion. What had taken me 3 years to uncover in my past life would take only 3 days in this one. The carriage jolted through Vermilion Bird Avenue. I lifted the curtain and looked out. Street vendors called out their sugar-coated hawthorn sticks, their candy glaze glowing amber in the autumn sun. I thought of Zhaoer the last time he saw them, how he couldn't move, how his chubby little finger would point at the vendor as he looked up and called, "Mama, Mama." Tears almost fell again. I let the curtain drop and tightened my grip on the bundle in my lap. Medicine. 3 miraculous detoxifying pills I had obtained from a descendant of the Medicine King Valley. In my past life, during my 2nd year of waiting for death in the side courtyard, this old man had wandered in by mistake. I had traded a bowl of congee for his life. He had been so grateful he said he owed me a life and would come any time I called. In this life, I didn't wait for him to wander in. I had my brother invite him directly. The price was a formula for 3 long-lost ancient medicines. The old man had muttered them to himself by my sickbed in my past life, and I had memorized them. After hearing the formulas, the old man's beard nearly stood on end. Without a word, he spent all night refining 3 pills to detoxify, to extend life, to protect the heart. Each one could snatch a person from the hands of the King of Hell. 3. Enough. As the carriage turned into the mansion's side gate, Chuer whispered, "Madam, Chuanqing from Lady Lu's courtyard is standing at the door. Looks like she's spying." I composed my expression. When I lifted the curtain, I wore a different face, meek, gentle, with a flattering smile. "Xin Zhaoning, Miss Chuanqing." I called her, my voice soft as spring wind. "Waiting for someone." Chuanqing startled. In my past life, Xin Zhaoning never spoke to maids first. She maintained her status as the legitimate wife, holding herself aloof, and ended up utterly alone. "I'm waiting for you, madam. Lady Lu said you had been out for half a day and was worried something might happen to you. So she sent me to wait." Worried something might happen to me, or worried I might have uncovered something. I smiled and patted her hand. How thoughtful of dear Qingwan. I went to my family's home and brought back some new fabric. I was just thinking of giving some to her. "Chuer, bring that bolt of brocade from the carriage." Chuer assented and fetched a bolt of shimmering brocade. Chuanqing's eyes nearly popped. This fabric was worth 100 taels per bolt, a private collection of the Shin family, unavailable on the market. This is too precious. "Madam, little sister Qingwan is so innocent and lovely. She deserves to be spoiled." I wore a smile as I said it, but in my heart, I was sharpening my blade. In my past life, I would have seen such words as a sign of weakness. In this life, I understood. Showing weakness is not admitting defeat. It's handing your opponent a knife. The moment she takes it, her vulnerability is exposed. Lu Qingwan's courtyard was called Lotus Court, the finest courtyard in the mansion aside from the main one. Lu Yenzhou had personally overseen its renovation, moving in Taihu stones, rerunning the water channels, planting lotus flowers throughout. Autumn was not the lotus season, leaving only withered branches and rotting leaves. But in Lu Qingwan's eyes, every last withered branch was a banner of her victory. When I walked in, she was lounging on a beauty couch, eating grapes, chilled grapes in a glazed dish. 2 little maids knelt by her side fanning her. An old nanny squatted on the floor, massaging her legs. She wore a pale red gauze robe, the collar slightly open, revealing a pale, smooth collarbone. A woman of 25, impeccably preserved, looking like 18. When she saw me enter, she leisurely spit a grape seed into a little maid's cupped hand and pushed herself up lazily. Sister is here. Please, sit. Sister. In my past life, she called me sister for 3 years. With every utterance, she reminded me she had borne a son, while I had not. She was young and beautiful, while I was aging and fading. What did it matter that I was the legitimate wife? The Marquis slept in her rooms. Don't get up, dear. Just lie there. I walked over unhurriedly. Chwayer, put the brocade on the table. I went home and got some nice fabric. I thought since you have such fair skin, this color would look lovely on you. Lu Qingwan glanced at the brocade. Her eyes brightened, but her lips said, Sister, you're too kind. I couldn't possibly. What's there to be shy about? We're family. I settled onto a cushion beside her. You've been here a month now, and I haven't properly played hostess. I've felt terrible about it. Since tomorrow is the lake banquet, I had a new hairpiece made for you. Wear it tomorrow. Her eyes brightened further. In my past life, she had worn a show-stopping outfit to that banquet, caught everyone's attention, and then put on a dramatic drowning scene. In this life, I would personally choose the fabric, commission the jewelry, and make her shine. Because the higher one rises, the harder one falls. Sister is so good to Qingwan. She chewed a grape, her eyes sparkling. Qingwan doesn't know how to repay you. Repay me. Tomorrow will do. I lifted the bowl of grapes as if selecting the sweetest one, but my gaze lingered on her face for a moment. Lu Qingwan's face from my past life. I remembered it twisting when I finally unmasked her. I still remembered her kneeling in the ancestral hall, forced to sign her confession. Dear sister, I spoke suddenly. You've been in the mansion a month now. Have you settled in? Settled in. Of course. The Marquis is good to me, and sister is good to me. Qingwan must have accumulated good karma in a past life. Accumulated good karma. I almost laughed. That's good. I stood. Rest well tonight. You'll want to be at your best for the banquet tomorrow. Sister, walk slowly. No need to see me out. The moment I turned, the smile I had worn fell from my face. Xinjiaoning, you've gone mad. For 3 years, you've smiled like a flower at the woman who killed your son. But what of it? The you of the past, clinging to dignity, was toyed with. The you of this life has learned to bow, but a bow is preparation for a higher leap. Back in my main courtyard, Chwayer closed the door and whispered, Madam, someone from Lady Lu's courtyard was skulking behind us, probably spying. Let him. I shed my outer robe and sat at my vanity. Tell the kitchen to heat water. I want to bathe. Madam, aren't you worried? Tomorrow is the lake banquet, and Lady Lu is definitely going to. Chwayer. I met her eyes in the mirror. My voice was calm but carried an unyielding weight. Do you trust me? Chwayer froze for a moment, then nodded emphatically. Yes. Then don't ask anything. Just do as I say. She stopped asking. She turned and went to fetch water. I faced the bronze mirror and slowly removed my hairpins. The woman in the mirror was 26, not the skeletal ghoul of my past life, but a woman in her prime, with a hint of her former gentleness in her brows. But the gentleness had died. It had died with shower. The water arrived. I sent Chwayer out to guard the door, undressed, and lowered myself into the tub. Hot water covered my chest, and the rising steam blurred my vision. I reached into the bundle and took out a small porcelain bottle. I poured out one pill and swallowed it, one of the 3, to strengthen the foundation, regulate energy and blood. In my past life, I had destroyed my health in that courtyard, culminating in 7 days of fever with no one to care. In this life, I would have a body of iron. Revenge required strength. I closed my eyes and began to recall every detail of my past life. The 15th of August, the lake banquet, at Lotus Garden east of the city. Lu Yenzhou had rented the entire garden and invited half the nobility of the capital. Midway through the feast, Lu Qingwan would suggest taking a walk by the lake to see the lotuses. Then, while everyone was distracted, she would jump into the water. At the same time, her man would push Xiaoer into the lake on the other side. Lu Yenzhou would have to choose between 2 drowning people. In my past life, he had chosen Lu Qingwan because Zhao could swim. In this life, he would still choose her, because in his heart, there had never been a place for Zhao. I opened my eyes. The water had gone cold. I got out, dried off, and put on a plain white inner robe. Chuier whispered from outside the door. Madam, the shadow guards are back. They found something. Come in. Chuier pushed open the door. Behind her stood a man in a short gray jacket. He bowed his head, knelt on one knee, and held out a letter and a cloth bundle. Madam, we found out about Lady Lu's background before she entered the mansion. She is not originally Lu Qingwan. Her real name is Lu Tsuea, a daughter of a concubine of the Lu family in Lingnan. The Lu family was raided and exiled 3 years ago for treason. She fled to the capital, where she was taken in by one of the Marquis' former subordinates from the border. I opened the letter and read it carefully. Treason, daughter of a disgraced family. Interesting. What expression would Lu Yenzhou make when he learned that the pure white moonlight he cherished was the daughter of a traitor? I opened the cloth bundle. Inside was a jade pendant, with a character, Gu, carved on the back. She did not come alone. She brought a man with her, claiming him as her cousin. He is actually the legitimate son of the Gu family of Lingnan Gu Yanji. The Gu and Lu families had arranged a marriage for their children when they were young. Lu Tsuea was betrothed to Gu Yanji at 13. Before entering the mansion, she stayed with him on his estate outside the city for half a month. Half a month. I rubbed the edge of the pendant, my lips slowly curling upward. Is she still seeing Gu Yanji? The shadow guard paused, then said quietly, yes. Every 3 to 5 days. Lady Lu uses an excuse of going to the temple to pray, and meets Gu Yanji outside the city. The last time was 3 days ago. 3 days ago, the day before my rebirth. I tucked the pendant into my sleeve and said to the shadow guard, keep watching. Tomorrow at the banquet, your task is to watch Zhao. No matter what happens, no one is to get near him. Anyone who tries, kill. The shadow guard acknowledged the order and disappeared without a sound. Chuier closed the door and turned to me, her eyes red. Madam, is something really going to happen tomorrow? I walked over and touched her head. Chuier, I remember every hardship you endured for me. When Lu Qingwan had your leg broken, you didn't make a sound. During those 7 days of fever, you didn't sleep for 3 days, kneeling at the entrance of the mansion, kowtowing until your face was covered in blood. In this life, I won't let you suffer like that again. Nothing will go wrong. I said, after tomorrow, everything will change. Chuier sniffled and smiled, then went to make the bed. I sat by the window, looking at the moon outside. The moon on the 12th of August wasn't yet full, but it shone bright. Moonlight flooded the courtyard, gilding everything silver. Tomorrow was the 13th, the night before the banquet. Lu Yenzhou would come to my courtyard for dinner. This was a memory from my past life, and a routine of this one. Every month on the 12th and 13th, he would come sit with me, not for any real reason, but for show, to let the whole mansion know that the legitimate wife's position was not yet abolished. But he never stayed long. After 1 cup of tea, someone from Lu Qingwan's side would come, saying she had a headache, or chest tightness, or missed him. Then Lu Yenzhou would rise and, with a flat, rest early, leave without looking back. In my past life, I cried. In this life, I would smile. Chuier finished making the bed and whispered, Madam, will the Marquis come tonight? He will. Not only will he come, he'll stay the night in the main courtyard. Chuier's eyes widened. How is that possible? What about Lady Lu's side? Chuier, go prepare the eastern wing. Fresh bedding. Light some calming incense. I paused. Then go to the kitchen and have them stew a bowl of lily and lotus seed soup. Put it on the nightstand in the eastern wing. The eastern wing. Chuier was confused. Madam, aren't you going to sleep with the Marquis? I smiled. Tonight, he'll sleep in the eastern wing. I'll sleep in the main room. When he's figured things out, he can come find me. Chuier's mouth dropped open wide enough to fit an egg. I didn't explain further. Some things were better done than said. Lu Yenzhou arrived at dusk. He wore a navy blue robe, a jade belt at his waist, his hair secured with a white jade hairpin. A man at 30 is at his prime, deep-set eyes, tall and straight, standing in the doorway. He looked like an unsheathed sword, handsome, but worthless. In my past life, my heart would have raced. In this one, I felt only revulsion. The Marquis is here. I rose to greet him. My motions immaculate. Dinner is ready. Please, be seated. He looked at me, surprise in his eyes. At this time in my past life, I would have rushed toward him, smiling, asking if he was tired, if he wanted tea, my whole posture crying out, I need you. He was used to that posture, and so it annoyed him. Today, I greeted him properly, maintaining a polite distance, as one would treat a guest. The word, guest, suited him perfectly. The meal was light, 4 dishes and a soup, no lavish spreads. In my past life, I had offered him delicacies at every meal to please him, but they only made him weary. Today, I had the kitchen prepare simple home-style food, stir-fried vegetables, sweet and sour carp, mushroom and greens, and a bowl of old duck soup. Lu Yanzhou sat down and glanced at the dishes. A change today, Marquis. You're used to coarse food at the border. Since returning, you've been eating heavy meals at banquets. Your stomach must be having a hard time. Light dishes are better for you. Please, try it. I ladled soup into a bowl and placed it before him, then sat down in my own seat, not next to him as I had before, but 1 seat away. Just the right distance. Not too close. Not too far. He took a sip and nodded. Good. I'm glad. I lowered my head and began to eat. I chewed slowly, as if savoring the taste. In truth, I tasted nothing. All my mind was on timing. 1 cup of tea. In 1 cup of tea's time, Lu Qingwan's people would come. The minutes passed. I counted my heartbeats. The footsteps came. Right on schedule. Chuanqing entered, carrying a tray, her head lowered. Marquis, Lady Lu says she's unwell. A terrible headache. She asks if you would come see her. In my past life, Lu Yanzhou would have risen immediately and left without a word. Today, I spoke before he could. Unwell. I set down my chopsticks, my voice full of concern. What happened to little sister Qingwan? When I saw her this afternoon, she was perfectly fine. Chuanqing, has a doctor seen her? Chuanqing froze, stammering, not yet. Why haven't you called a doctor? I raised my voice slightly, with just the right note of reproach. Illness is no small matter. What if she's seriously ill? Chuier, go to the front courtyard and invite Dr. Li. Ask him to have a look at Lady Lu. Chuanqing's face went pale. Lu Qingwan wasn't sick. She just used this tactic to summon Lu Yanzhou. I knew it better than anyone. Now that I was sending a doctor, she would have to actually feign illness. Feigning illness meant taking medicine, and medicine was bitter. Tonight, she would play this role whether she wanted to or not. Lu Yanzhou looked at me. I understood his look, surprise, and a subtle satisfaction. He was satisfied with my virtue, with my lack of jealousy, with me acting as a proper wife should. In my past life, I had sought such satisfaction and suffered for 3 years. In this life, his satisfaction was merely the interest he owed me. Chuanqing, go back now. Tell the lady to rest. The doctor will come soon. I smiled, then turned to Lu Yanzhou. Marquis, the soup has gone cold. I'll have them warm another bowl. Chuanqing bit her lip and withdrew. Lu Yanzhou didn't leave. He stayed another quarter hour, the first time in 3 years. But after that quarter hour, he still rose, saying he had paperwork to review in his study. I walked him to the door, smiling as I bid him good night, then turned to Chuier. Did you light the calming incense in the eastern wing? I did. Good. Don't lock the door. He'll come back. Chuier looked skeptical. I didn't explain. I had used 2 lifetimes to understand Lu Yanzhou. He was used to being pursued. The moment the pursuit stopped, he would sense something was off. In my past life, I chased him for 3 years, and he ran farther. In this life, I didn't chase, and he would turn around to look. Sure enough, less than an hour later, the door opened again. Lu Yanzhou stood there, holding a white jade hairpin. I sat by the window, reading. The lamplight softened the lines of my profile. Hearing his footsteps, I slowly looked up, a flicker of well-measured surprise in my eyes. Marquis, didn't you say you were going to the study? He gave an unnatural cough. The study is too stuffy. I couldn't sleep. I put down my book, stood, and walked over to take the hairpin he held. White jade, intricately carved, the hairpin head was a lotus bud about to bloom, glowing with a soft luster under the lamp. Fine quality mutton fat jade. For you, he said. I passed a jewelry shop and saw it. I thought it would suit you. In my past life, he had never bought me anything. Lu Qingwan's jewelry boxes overflowed with his gifts, pearls, jade, gold. My only ornaments were the ones I brought from the Shin family as part of my dowry. Thank you, Marquis. I took the hairpin and smiled. It's lovely. Chui'er, move the Marquis's bedding to the eastern wing. Make it soft. Lu Yanzhou blinked. The eastern wing. The Marquis is accustomed to sleeping alone. I worried the bed in the main room would be too small and uncomfortable. My tone was considerate, allowing no refusal. The eastern wing is more spacious. I also have calming incense lit. The Marquis will surely sleep well tonight. He looked at me, his lips moving as if to speak. I gave him no chance. It's getting late. Marquis, rest early. We must rise early for tomorrow's banquet. I curtsied. I will take my leave. I turned, entered the main room, and closed the door behind me. Leaning against the doorframe, I closed my eyes. On this night in my past life, I lay awake all night, waiting for him to knock on my door. He never came. He went to Lu Qingwan's lotus court. In this life, he had come, but I would not open the door. Was this revenge? No. Revenge was tomorrow's lake banquet. Zhao would return from the lake alive. Lu Qingwan would die in the contempt of everyone. Lu Yanzhou would watch helplessly as his pure white moonlight turned to bone. This was just the beginning. The 13th of August, the day before the banquet, when Lu Yanzhou came out of the eastern wing, I had already been in the courtyard for an hour, not waiting for him, pruning flowers. I held a pair of silver shears in my hand. Snip, 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 cutting away dead leaves and withered branches. Movements as clean as if I were cutting paper. The early autumn light shone on my shoulders. I wore a pale yellow jacket, my hair in a simple bun, revealing the pale nape of my neck. You're up early, he said from behind me. I turned and smiled. I'm used to it. Did the Marquis sleep well? He grunted, his gaze lingering on my face for a moment, searching for something. At this time in my past life, I would have eagerly hovered around him, asking questions. Today, I asked nothing. I turned back to pruning. He stood a moment, then turned and left. When his footsteps faded, Chui'er approached and whispered, Madam, the Marquis looked at you several times before he left. Let him look. I set down my shears and brushed the clippings from my hands. Chui'er, do you know why someone becomes interested in another person? Chui'er thought for a moment. Because they're good-looking. Because they're good-looking. And because of novelty. I selected the best rose from my basket and placed it in a celadone vase on the table. He and I have been married for 6 years. The first 3, he grew accustomed to my virtues. The last 3, he grew accustomed to my protests. Now, I'll show him that Xinjiaoning can want nothing, or she can want everything. The rose was arranged. I examined it with satisfaction. Prepare the carriage. I'm going to the temple outside the city. Chui'er's eyes widened. Madam, you said yesterday you weren't going to the temple anymore in this lifetime. That was about going for myself. Today, I'm going for someone else. I turned to change clothes. Speaking as I walked, send word to the Marquis. Tell him I'm going to Jing'an Temple outside the city to pray for him. To ask for peace at tomorrow's banquet. To pray for the Marquis. Chui'er trotted after me. Madam, when did you become devout? My words were scripture. Just do as I say. The carriage left through the mansion's side gate. I didn't bring Chui'er, only a shadow guard disguised as a coachman. Chui'er stayed in the mansion to watch the lotus court. The shadow guard said Lu Qingwan had sent someone to a house in the southern part of the city. The southern house. That was where Gu Yanji lived. In my past life, I had never known Gu Yanji existed. I thought Lu Qingwan was truly a virtuous, innocent orphan, deeply devoted to Lu Yanzhou. In this life, with the omniscient perspective, the whole chessboard came alive. The carriage turned a corner, bypassing Jing'an Temple, and stopped in a quiet alley. The shadow guard pointed at a black painted door at the end. Here, madam. Gu Yenji's rented courtyard. 15 taels a month. Paid by Lady Lu. 15 taels a month. Lu Yenzhou gave her 30 taels a month. She spent half on her lover. I suppressed a smile. Knock. The shadow guard knocked 3 times. Someone asked from inside. Who is it? The guard gave a false name. The door opened a crack, revealing a young man's face, sharp brows and clear eyes, handsome features, and despite his coarse cotton clothes, an undeniable air of nobility. Gu Yenji. When he saw the shadow guard, his expression sharpened, and he moved to close the door. I stepped forward, holding up the jade pendant. Young Master Gu, do you know this? Gu Yenji's face went dark. His hand tightened on the doorframe. His knuckles white. His Adam's apple bobbed. When he spoke, his voice was strained. Who are you? How do you have that pendant? My name is Xinjiaoning. I smiled. The legitimate wife of the Jinyuan Ho mansion. The woman Lu Yenzhou married with full ceremony. Gu Yenji's eyelid twitched. His grip on the doorframe loosened, then tightened again. He knew this identity. Of course, because his woman was sleeping beside this woman's husband. Won't you invite me in? He was silent a moment, then stepped aside. The courtyard was small but tidy. A bamboo grove grew by the corner. A wind chime hung from the eaves. On the stone table sat a pot of cold tea and a crude porcelain bowl. The place had an air of temporariness. The occupants wouldn't stay long, but while they stayed, they tried to live decently. Gu Yenji poured tea and pushed the bowl toward me. I took a sip. Old tea. Quite bitter. How long have you been in the capital? Young Master Gu. 6 months. He sat across from me, his gaze never leaving my face. A legitimate son of a noble house, he had at least this much composure. You didn't come here just for tea, Madam Shen. No, I didn't. I put down my bowl. I came to make a deal. What kind of deal? A deal about Lu Qingwan. His pupils contracted sharply. I smiled. Let me be clearer. Lu Qingwan, her real name is Lu Tsuea, the daughter of a concubine of the Lu family in Lingnan. She was betrothed to you as a child. 3 years ago, the Lu family was raided for treason and exiled. She escaped to the capital, where you placed her on your estate outside the city. You stayed together there for half a month. After she entered the Ho mansion, you've been meeting every few days. The last time was 3 days ago. Gu Yenji's face went white. Shall I continue? I tilted my head. He was silent for a long time. Only the wind chime spoke, its pleasant clinking the only sound. What do you want? He finally spoke, his voice low. I want you to do something. I pulled a folded note from my sleeve and slid it across the table. Come to Lotus Garden tomorrow. Do what is written here. After it's done, I will give you enough silver to leave the capital and start over. I will clean up everything Lu Qingwan has done. Nothing will implicate you. Gu Yenji unfolded the note. Read it. And his hands began to tremble. You want me to expose her publicly. Not expose. Claim. I corrected him. She's your woman. You should take her home. Your child is growing in another's womb. Do you want to be a cuckold father? His face cycled through shades, white to red to purple. How do you know about the child? I know far more than you imagine. I stood. Young Master Gu. Lu Qingwan has been in the mansion for a month, and she is already pregnant with your child. How much longer can she hide it? When her belly grows and her morning sickness becomes impossible to conceal, what will the mansion do to her? What will Lu Yenzhou do to you? I walked over to him and leaned down to meet his eyes. Adultery, according to the laws of Deliang, carries 100 strokes for the man, and for the woman, a drowning cage. Do you want your child to die in a drowning cage? Gu Yenji slammed his fist on the stone table. The teacup jumped, fell, and shattered into pieces. His eyes reddened. Lu Tsuea. He looked at his fist, his voice hoarse. She said she would find a way. She said when she was established, she would come back to me. I've waited half a year. She meets me 2 or 3 times a month. And every time, she tells me to wait longer. Wait for what? For her to give birth to your child in the mansion. Then tell Lu Yenzhou it's his. My voice was light, as if discussing something trivial. Young Master Gu, how do you think she plans to establish herself? By trading your child for her own wealth and status. Lu Yenzhou will be a cuckold. You will be a cuckold outside. Your child will bear the surname Lu, not Gu. Do you consent? Gu Yanji shot to his feet, knocking over his chair. His chest heaved. His Adam's apple bobbed. Like a trapped beast. His eyes held fury, pain, heartbreak, and a flicker of stubborn hope. She wouldn't. Tsueya is not like that, she wouldn't. I nearly laughed. If she wouldn't, why did she marry Lu Yenzhou? If you were already betrothed, why didn't she marry you directly? The Lu family fell, and she decided you were too poor. You couldn't give her the position of legitimate wife. She wants the luxuries of the home mansion, the glory of being a titled lady. What can you, Gu Yanji, give her? A rented courtyard, a pot of bitter old tea, and a position as a secret bastard's father. Every word was a knife into Gu Yanji's chest. At last, he wept. A 30-year-old man, crouching on the green bricks, covering his face, his shoulders shaking. He didn't make a sound, but that silent crying was more heartbreaking than any wail. I waited until he was done. The wind chime still clinked. The sun had moved across half the courtyard, shining coldly on the broken porcelain. I'll do it. He stood, wiping his face with his sleeve. His voice was already steady. Tomorrow, I will go to Lotus Garden and do as you say. Good. I pulled a banknote from my sleeve. This is 500 taels. After it's done, another 500. Take the money, take her, and go far away. Don't return to Lingnan. Don't stay in the capital. Go to Jiangnan, to Shu. Change your names and begin again. Gu Yanji took the banknote and looked at me. Madam Xin, do you hate her? Hate. I smiled. I just want to keep my son alive. He stared a moment, then asked no more. I turned to leave. At the door, I heard him say, "Take care." I didn't look back. Outside the alley, I climbed into the carriage. The shadow guard murmured, "Madam, can he be trusted?" It doesn't matter. I leaned back, closing my eyes. Tomorrow, it's best if he comes. But it doesn't matter if he doesn't. I have the betrothal document in his own hand. I have his letters. Enough. Then why did you come to see him? Because I want her to have a choice. I opened my eyes. To destroy her heart, the best blade is the person she trusts most. For Gu Yanji to expose her misdeeds with his own hands is more effective than anything I could say. The carriage stopped at the mansion's side gate. I smoothed my clothes and expression and stepped inside. Chuanqing, from the Lotus Court, was again standing at the door, smiling, though she couldn't hide the calculating look in her eyes. Madam is back. Lady Lu said she'd been waiting for you. She invites you to come taste some tea, New Dragon Well. Thank my sister for me. I'm tired today. Another time. I smiled as I refused, not slowing, and went straight to my courtyard. Chuier welcomed me in, closed the door, and lowered her voice. Madam, Lady Lu sent someone to the southern part of the city this afternoon. They walked around the alley for a while, then came back. They didn't dare get close to that house. She knows you went there. Let her know. I sat down, and Chuier poured tea. Her problem now isn't where I went. It's how to pull off her drowning act tomorrow. Madam, tomorrow's plan. Tomorrow's plan is simple. I accepted the teacup. She wants to drown. I'll let her drown plenty. She wants to kill my son. I'll make sure she dies restless. The 14th of August, the night before the banquet, Lu Yenzhou came again. This time, he didn't go to the eastern wing. He stood at the door of the main room and said he wanted to talk. Chuier was brushing my hair. I saw his shadow reflected in the window lattice, straight as a tree. Chuier, go out. Chuier set down the brush and left, closing the door behind her. Lu Yenzhou entered and sat across from me at the table. He wore a pale white robe today, which accentuated his elegant features. A pot of tea and 2 plates of snacks sat on the table. I poured a cup and pushed it toward him. What does the Marquis wish to say? You've been different these past 2 days. He looked into my eyes, his gaze deep. Since that night, you've been different. Different how? Before, you always. He chose his words carefully. You always cared about what I did, where I went. Now you don't ask. Whether you change or not isn't affected by how much I care. I said, so why make myself miserable? His expression shifted, growing complicated. Zhao Ning, He said my name softly. I know I've wronged you this past month. Qingwan just entered the mansion. There are many things to sort out. After some time. Marquis. I interrupted. My tone flat. I'm not wronged. Tomorrow is the lake banquet. You're taking us out to relax. That's fine. That's not what I meant. I mean, you are my legitimate wife. That will never change. Legitimate wife. Those two words, spoken from his mouth, pierced the softest part of my heart. In my past life, I had waited 3 years for those words. I waited until Zhao died. I waited until I died. They never came. In this life. He said them so easily, but they were already worthless. I know I am the legitimate wife. I sat properly, my hands folded on my lap. The Marquis need not worry. At tomorrow's banquet, I will see to the household's dignity. He looked at me, his lips parting as if to say more. I rose and curtsied. It's late. Rest early. Marquis. We must be up early tomorrow. Zhaoning. Marquis. Go to the eastern wing. Chuyer has made up the bedding. I smiled, but the smile didn't reach my eyes. The calming incense is lit. You'll sleep well. His face darkened for a moment. Then he recovered. He stood, walked to the door, and suddenly turned back. Zhaoning, what are you really thinking? What was I thinking? That tomorrow, you will kneel before everyone, and the pure moonlight you cherished in your palms will turn out to be a pile of mud. That tomorrow, you will stand by the lake and see the son you killed come running to you, calling you, Father, and my tears will no longer fall for you. But I wouldn't say that. I think the weather will be nice tomorrow. Good for a boat ride. He gave me one last deep look, then left. The moment the door closed, Chuyer slipped in and gave me a thumbs up. I couldn't help a laugh. Then, laughing, I began to cry. Madam. Chuyer panicked. Why are you crying? It's nothing. I wiped my tears. They're tears of joy. Tomorrow, Zhao will be alive, not that tiny body sinking in the icy pond. Not that ruined little lotus flower. Not my child clutching a little pouch who could never be woken again. He will be running and laughing, calling me mama, pointing at the fish in the lake and giggling, falling asleep in my arms on the way home. His little hand clutching my clothes so tightly they can't be pried open. He will live. He must live. I lay down and waited for the sun to rise. The 15th of August. Mid-autumn. I was awake before dawn. Actually, I hadn't slept at all. Chuyer tiptoed in with water, and I was already dressed, sitting at my vanity. I chose a pale lotus-colored jacket, plain but not too plain. I wore my hair in the most proper matching bun, secured with the white jade lotus hairpin Lu Yenzhou had given me, not for him, but for Zhao. If mother dressed well, it would reflect well on her son's face. You look wonderful today, madam, Chuyer said as she brushed my hair, like a different person. I examined myself in the bronze mirror. The woman in the mirror had relaxed brows, the corners of her mouth slightly raised. There was no venom or exhaustion in her eyes, only a deep, bone-level composure. A person only radiates that kind of presence when they know what they want and how to get it. Has the Marquis risen? Yes. The bedding in the eastern wing was folded neat as a pin. He's practicing his sword. Sword practice. On the morning of the lake banquet. A good mood. Then, which meant he would fall harder. At 7:30, the carriages were lined up at the front gate. 3 carriages. The first for Lu Yenzhou alone. The second for me and Zhao. The third for Lu Qingwan and her maids. A grand spectacle. The people along the road gaped. In my past life, I had sat in the second carriage, lifting the curtain to gaze at the first, hoping Lu Yenzhou would turn and look at me. In this life, I sat in the second carriage, bent over Zhao, straightening his collar. He wore a pale yellow jacket, the collar embroidered with osmanthus flowers, sewn by Chuyer the night before. A 3-year-old child is at his most delightful, round belly, chubby little arms. His face as white as tofu. He looked up at me, his eyes bright as black grapes. Mama, where are we going? To the lake, to see the lotuses. My hands were trembling, but my voice was steady. I couldn't let him see anything wrong. I couldn't let him be frightened. Are the lotuses pretty? Very pretty. If Zhao is good, Mama will buy you a sugar-coated hawthorn stick. 2. All right. 2. He giggled, showing 2 rows of small teeth. I turned my face to the window. Tears welled in my eyes, but I held them back, refusing to let them fall. On this day in my past life, he had asked the same question. Are the lotuses pretty? I had said yes, and then he never came back. I tightened my grip on his hand. The little thing, unaware, cheerfully pried my fingers apart one by one to play his finger games. Lotus Garden lay east of the city, 100 acres in size. Its lake broad, though the lotus had passed its peak. The withered lotus plants had their own charm. Lu Yenzhou had rented the entire garden. The guests were the capital's elite, the Marquis of Jing'an, the Earl of Yongcheng, a few scholars from the Hanlin Academy, and some officials from the Ministry of War. This was Lu Qingwan's first public appearance since entering the mansion. Lu Yenzhou wanted everyone to see how beautiful his new concubine was. Beautiful. She was beautiful today. I glanced at Lu Qingwan's attire from a distance, a crimson chest-high skirt, a blue gauze jacket, and a red gold hairpin hung with pearls that swayed and gleamed with every step. I had provided the hairpiece, chosen the fabric, sent the extra jewelry. I made her shine. Because the more dazzling something is, the easier it shatters. The feast was held in a pavilion by the lake, open on all sides, with lake breezes blowing through and rippling the gauze curtains. Lu Yenzhou sat in the main seat. I sat to his right. Lu Qingwan sat to his left. An artful arrangement, the wife on the right, the favored concubine on the left. The left is the seat of honor, but in formal settings. The right is the primary seat. He was trying to please both sides, living in ambiguity. I lifted my teacup and took a sip, expressionless. Midway through the feast, Lu Qingwan began her performance. She first said she felt dizzy, then praised the lake view, then coquettishly asked Lu Yenzhou, Marquis, may I go to the lake to see the lotuses? Sister, would you like to come? In my past life, she had said the same. I had declined, letting her go alone. Then she fell in the water. Lu Yenzhou jumped in to save her, and Xiao'er fell into another part of the lake at the same time. In this life, I smiled and said, of course, and Xiao'er would love to play by the lake too. Lu Qingwan's smile faltered. She didn't want me to come. If I came, her drowning act would have an extra witness. And as for Xiao'er, her accomplice for Xiao'er was a guard named Wang Er. She had paid him 50 taels to push Xiao'er into the lake during the banquet. That was the very man who had done it in my past life. After I uncovered him, my brother Shen Zhaoyan had personally tied him to a stone and sunk him in the river. The path by the lake was paved with blue stone slabs, lined on both sides with weeping willows. Lu Qingwan walked on Lu Yenzhou's left. I walked on his right, holding Xiao'er's hand. Xiao'er chattered non-stop, pointing at fish in the lake and shouting, Mama, look. Lu Yenzhou suddenly turned to me. Zhaoning, you're very quiet today. Just thinking. About what? About hiring a tutor for Xiao'er. He's 3 now. Time to begin his education. Lu Yenzhou grunted and said nothing more. Lu Qingwan took the opportunity to interject. Sister is so good to the young heir. When I have a child someday, I hope to be as attentive. A child? You already have one in your belly. I'm sure you will, I said gently. There was a viewing platform at the edge of the lake, extending 3 feet over the water, surrounded by a balustrade. Lu Qingwan walked to the farthest edge, leaned on the railing, and looked down, her posture as alluring as a hibiscus flower in the wind. The guests from the pavilion drifted over in 2s and 3s. The wife of the Marquis of Jing'an, the wife of the Earl of Yongcheng, and several other noblewomen stood nearby, chatting. This was the effect Lu Qingwan wanted, a public spectacle. Everyone present would be a witness to her drowning, and also to Lu Yenzhou's heroic rescue. I stood with Xiao'er about 2 zheng away. I bent down and whispered in his ear, Xiao'er, do you want to play a game with Mama? Yes. His eyes lit up. No matter what you hear later, don't move. Stay by Mama's side. Hold her hand tight. No matter who calls you, you don't go. Understand? I understand. Pinky swear. He stuck out his little pinky. I stuck out mine. And we linked them. Pinky swear. For 100 years. No takebacks. My peripheral vision never left Lu Qingwan. Her hands on the railing trembled slightly, not from fear. From excitement. She was waiting for the perfect moment to fall. When Lu Yanzhou came near, Lu Yanzhou stood 3 paces away from her, talking to a Ministry of War official. Now, Lu Qingwan let go of the railing, her body leaned back, and a shrill scream escaped her. Ah! Water splashed everywhere. She fell straight into the lake, disappearing beneath the surface. The blue gauze jacket floated for an instant on the water, then sank. Qingwan. Lu Yanzhou tensed, ready to jump. Marquis. I spoke suddenly, not loudly, but my voice cut through the chaos. Lady Lu has fallen into the lake. Someone call a doctor. I didn't say, go save her. I said, call a doctor. Lu Yanzhou paused. That was all it took. A maid who knew how to swim had already jumped in. At the same time, I swept my gaze to the other side of the lake. In my past life, at this moment, Wang Er had used the chaos to push Zhao into the water. In this life, Zhao stood beside me, gripping my hand, not a step away. And Wang Er, he was not by the lake at all. My shadow guards had bound him the night before. He was now gagged in the woodshed. Lu Qingwan thrashed in the water, splashing high. She could swim. In my past life, she had held her breath for a good while. In this life, she could too. But today was different. As she struggled, she felt something was wrong. Her body was stiffening, first her legs, then her arms, then even her neck, as if rusted, hard to turn. The powder of 3 days had taken effect. Colorless, odorless, it penetrated through the skin. Within 3 breaths, it stiffened the limbs. Not fatal, but it would make her sink like a stone. This morning, before she left, she had drunk a cup of calming tea I sent, a special preparation for her. I said, since she hadn't slept well. Of course she drank it, because I had been so good to her these past 2 days. She thought I was trying to curry favor. How wrong she was. Her expression had shifted, from feigned terror to genuine fear. The water rose over her mouth and nose. She tried to lift her head, but her neck was too stiff. Help! Help! Her voice broke. The maid who had jumped in got hold of her chin. But with Lu Qingwan rigid, one maid couldn't lift her. Both began to sink. At last, Lu Yanzhou jumped. He swam to her side in a few strokes, put his arm around her waist, and pulled for the shore. Lu Qingwan hung on him like a block of wood. Her face blue, her lips purple, all her charm gone. Panic spread on the bank. The wife of the Marquis of Jingyan called for a doctor. The wife of the Earl of Yongchang shouted for blankets. Maids ran about like headless chickens. I stood still, holding Zhao's hand, watching it all. My shadow guards had already surrounded me and my son, all sides. No blind spots. No one could reach Zhao today. When Lu Yanzhou dragged her to shore, she was half unconscious. She sprawled limply, water streaming from her hair and clothes. The gold and pearl hairpin hung askew, its pearl strings tangled in her earring. A pitiful sight. Why is she so stiff? Lu Yanzhou touched her arm, his expression changing. It's like she's frozen. Get a blanket. Someone shouted. The blanket was wrapped around her. Lu Qingwan finally caught her breath. The first thing she did was cry. Marquis, someone is trying to kill me. She clutched his collar, her nails digging into the fabric. There's something in the water. I couldn't move. Someone poisoned me. Lu Yanzhou's face was livid. He looked around, his gaze sweeping over everyone, finally landing on me. There was scrutiny in it, suspicion, and something else, I couldn't tell. I met his gaze without flinching. Lu Qingwan continued to cry. Marquis, I can't swim. Someone pushed me. Someone pushed me. Pushed. I raised an eyebrow. Everyone had seen it clearly. She had let go of the railing herself. There were dozens of witnesses on the shore. Who had pushed her? No one had seen anything. Lu Yanzhou rose to his feet, about to speak. Little sister Qingwan. I stepped forward, my voice clear and steady. All eyes turned to me. The wind by the lake whipped at my clothes. I walked to the old madam, knelt, and kowtowed properly. Grandmother, little sister Qingwan suspects someone poisoned her. This is a grave matter, not only to her safety but also to the honor and dignity of the Ho mansion. I humbly request that you investigate. As I knelt, my knees struck the blue stone slabs. It hurt, but compared to the pain of Zhao drowning in my past life, This pain meant nothing. The old madam was 62 years old, the matriarch of the house. In her youth, she had been decisive and fierce, but in recent years she had retired, focusing on prayer and leaving things alone. Lu Qingwan had fooled her entirely, making her believe she was a gentle, virtuous girl. But today, before all the nobility of the capital, she could not ignore this. Zhaoning is right. The old madam's face hardened. Seal the garden. No one in, no one out. Call the imperial physicians. Test the water for poison. Wait. Lu Yanzhou spoke. He looked at me, kneeling on the ground. His expression complicated. Wife, do you really want to do this? My back was straight as a rod. Marquis, little sister Qingwan suspects someone harmed her. If we don't get to the bottom of this, people will say the home mansion doesn't know right from wrong, that its mistress can't manage the household. If there was poison, punish the guilty. If there wasn't, then little sister Qingwan has made a false accusation. According to house rules, slandering the mistress carries 40 strokes. 40 strokes. At those words, Lu Qingwan's face went white. 40 strokes would tear a woman's skin, leaving her bedridden for 3 months. Lu Yanzhou's expression also changed. Wife, Qingwan just fell in the water. She's weak. Do you really want to punish her? Marquis, I lifted my head, neither humble nor arrogant. I am not punishing her. She asked for an investigation. I am merely trying to handle the matter properly. Does the Marquis not want to know the truth? The crowd was silent. The wife of the Marquis of Jingyan lifted her teacup, hiding a smile behind it. The wife of the Earl of Yongchang exchanged a glance with her neighbor. These seasoned residents of great mansions understood such underhanded rivalries better than anyone. Lu Yanzhou gritted his teeth. Investigate. The imperial physicians came. The coroner came. They tested the lake water, Lu Qingwan's clothes, the tea she had drunk that morning, the food she had eaten, everything she had touched, one by one. The result? Nothing. No poison in the water. No poison on her clothes. No poison in the tea. No poison in the food. As for Lu Qingwan's stiffness, the physician explained it might be from the shock of falling into the cold water, the cold invading her system. A few days rest, and she would be fine. Impossible. Someone is trying to kill me. That tea, the tea I drank this morning, it must have been tampered with. That cup had long since been washed clean by Chuyer. Even if it hadn't, the powder of 3 days was an extremely rare drug from the western regions, undetectable in the central plains. Turn the entire mansion upside down, and no trace of poison would be found. The deadliest poison is the one that can't be detected. The old madam's face was dark. Qingwan. She spoke, her voice quiet but heavy. The doctors say you're fine. The coroner says there's no poison. You claim someone tried to kill you. Do you have evidence? Lu Qingwan's mouth opened and closed. She had no evidence, because the one who had set the trap had left no trace. Grandmother. I was still kneeling, my voice compassionate. Little sister Qingwan fell into the water and was frightened. It's natural for her to be paranoid. I don't blame her, but the house rules are the rules. You said to investigate. The investigation found nothing. If we do not follow the rules, then anyone could make wild accusations. Everyone would live in fear. My words were flawless. I pleaded for Lu Qingwan, but I put the rules first. The old madam valued rules above all else. She couldn't defy her own principles. Someone. The old madam closed her eyes. Lu Qingwan. For slandering the mistress. 40 strokes. Take her to the ancestral hall and administer the punishment. Grandmother. Lu Yanzhou stepped forward. Qingwan is weak. 40 strokes will kill her. Yanzhou. The old madam opened her eyes and looked at her most beloved grandson. The rules were enforced at your wife's suggestion. The doctors were called at your order. The truth was found before your eyes. And now you want to overrule your grandmother for a concubine. Strike at the heart. That was the core of my learning from 3 years in this mansion. Lu Yanzhou's face cycled through emotions. He looked at Lu Qingwan, her tear-streaked face, her trembling lips, her silent plea for him. Then he looked at me, still kneeling, the morning light from the side casting a long shadow. My head bowed, as meek and proper a wife as could be. Someone, he finally said, his voice hoarse. Administer the punishment. As they dragged her away, Lu Qingwan sobbed heart-wrenchingly. Her gaze passed over the crowd and landed on me. There was hatred in it, resentment, confusion. She couldn't understand, in her month in the mansion, she had always been winning. Lu Yenzhou's heart belonged to her. She controlled the household accounts. She had crushed the legitimate wife. Why? After this one banquet, had everything changed? She didn't understand. But it didn't matter. Starting today, she would come to understand. Slowly, the flogging took place in the ancestral hall. Even half a garden away, I could still faintly hear her screams. At 10 strokes, she shrieked. At 20, she wailed. At 30, her voice gave out. At 40, silence. The old madam sighed, rose, and returned to the pavilion. The other guests dispersed. Only Lu Yenzhou, me, and Zhao remained, he still holding my hand. Lu Yenzhou stood by the lake, his back to me, the lines of his shoulders taut. I walked over, leading Zhao. Marquis. He turned. His eyes were rimmed with red. He looked at me with anger, with helplessness, and with something else I couldn't name. Xinjiaoning, what are you really after? I tilted my head and smiled. What does the Marquis mean? I want nothing. Little sister Qingwan insisted on investigating. I merely cooperated. Papa. Zhao suddenly let go of my hand, ran to Lu Yenzhou, and hugged his leg, looking up with a grin. Papa. Mama said later she'll buy me sugar-coated hawthorn sticks, too. Lu Yenzhou looked down at his son, the 3-year-old, understanding nothing, was so happy. He crouched, touched Zhao's head, and said in a voice rough with emotion, all right, Papa will buy them for you. I stood 2 steps away, watching. My heart was still. On this day in my past life, Zhao had died. Lu Yenzhou had held his cold body and not shed a single tear. He had only said, bury him with dignity. In this life, Zhao lived. He crouched to pet his son's head and promised to buy him candy. Too late. Lu Yenzhou, everything you do now is too late. I stepped forward, lifted Zhao into my arms, and smiled at Lu Yenzhou. Marquis, Zhao needs his nap. I'll take him to the carriage. Please look after little sister Qingwan. Zhaoning. He hesitated, then said only 2 words. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for not causing a scene at the banquet. Thank you for preserving the household's dignity. Thank you for not crying or raging in front of me. I turned, carrying Zhao, the smile slowly fading. Lu Yenzhou. This is only the beginning. Zhao lay on my shoulder, his little arms around my neck, fast asleep soon after. His soft, light breath brushed my ear. When I reached the carriage, Chuier had already spread a blanket. I laid him gently down, covered him, and sat beside him, looking at his sleeping face, long lashes, tiny nose, slightly pouting lips. Alive. He was alive. Chuier crouched before me and pulled a handkerchief from her sleeve. Madam, you're crying. I touched my face, it was wet with tears. Chuier. I laughed. Today is a good day. Yes. Madam. The carriage moved, wheels grinding over the bluestone slabs. Zhao shifted in his sleep, his little hand finding my clothing and clutching it tight. I let him hold on. In this life, no matter how you cling, Mama won't let go. The second piece was already in place. Gu Yanji would appear when Lu Qingwan was at her weakest. After 40 strokes, she would be bedridden, helpless. In her most fearful, most helpless moment, that was when she would need someone to help her. And the only one who could help her was Gu Yanji. Not because I was omniscient, but because I knew her so well. The best way to know someone is to have been destroyed by them. The carriage rolled on. Lotus Garden shrank to a point behind us. I lifted the curtain and took one last look. The lake glittered as if nothing had happened. Tomorrow, the real game would begin. Lu Qingwan lay in bed for 7 days. 40 strokes had nearly killed her. I visited her once, not out of pity, but for the old madam's sake. I sat by her bed, held her hand, and said with tears in my eyes, little sister has suffered. I feel so sorry. Her hands were cold. Her nails dug into my palm, but she forced a smile uglier than tears onto her face. Sister is too kind. It was my own carelessness. The nannies nearby nodded. The madam has a heart of a bodhisattva. A heart of a bodhisattva. I almost laughed. In those 7 days, Lu Yenzhou went to Lotus Court 3 times. He never stayed long. Because Lu Qingwan couldn't move, not only couldn't she attend to him, but even turning over made her sweat with pain. Men are visual creatures. Watching a woman lying in bed moaning, once or twice, it's pity. The 3rd time, it's boring. When he came out the 3rd time, his pace was noticeably faster. I was in the garden, pruning branches. The autumn begonias were in full bloom, a brilliant red. I selected a few of the best branches to cut, planning to arrange them in a vase and place them in Zhao's study. He came and stood behind me. Zhaoning, Marquis. I turned, still holding the shears. Is little sister Qingwan feeling better? Yes. A little. He paused. You care for her. She belongs to the Marquis. It is only right that I care for her. I turned back to my pruning. Snip. A too thick branch fell. What have you been busy with these days? Finding a tutor for Zhao, managing the household, and copying sutras. I gathered the cut branches, and Chuyer handed me a basket. I carefully arranged them. My days are simple. The Marquis needn't concern himself. Simple. To his ears, it might sound like a virtuous wife. From my mouth, it meant something else. A woman whose days are too simple is not truly simple. She is gathering strength. Lu Yenzhou reached into the basket, picked up a branch of begonia, looked at it, and put it back. In 2 days, a few of my old comrades from the border are coming. I'll be hosting a dinner. Make the arrangements. All right? I agreed readily. How many guests? Any dietary restrictions? What liquor? He paused, surprised I hadn't asked more. In my past life, I would have pressed him. Who are they? Where will they sit? Should I invite the ladies? Can Lu Qingwan attend? The more I asked, the more annoyed he became. In this life, I didn't ask, because it wasn't necessary. After this meal, he would begin repaying what he owed me. The dinner came. Lu Yenzhou hosted it in the main hall. 6 men, brothers with whom he had fought alongside at the border. I set up a separate table in a side room for the wives, inviting the wife of the Marquis of Jing'an and several other noble women to keep them company. Thorough, without fault. Midway through the meal, I carried a pot of wine into the main hall and poured for each guest. When I reached the last, I accidentally knocked a letter off the table. It fell. The seal opened, and several pages scattered. Careful, madam. Someone beside me helped pick them up. Their gaze swept over the words on the paper, and their expression changed. They had seen 4 characters. Defalcation of military pay. What's this? They asked instinctively. Lu Yenzhou came over, picked up the pages, and looked. His face turned dark. The pages were the accounts of defalcations and illegal trade with enemy merchants that he had kept. Every entry was detailed. When and where. Who handled it. The amount of silver, not a penny off. This was the most confidential ledger he kept hidden in his study. How did it end up here? What he didn't know was that this wasn't the letter I had knocked off. That letter held my forged copy, but the content was identical. Enough to terrify him. The original ledger was currently in the hidden compartment under my pillow, alongside the evidence of Lu Qingwan's crimes. Marquis, what is this? The soldier's eyes had changed, his voice low, but everyone in the room heard. Nothing. Lu Yenzhou folded the pages, stuffed them into his sleeve, and forced a smile. Personal matters. Drink. After the meal, he cornered me in the hallway. The moonlight shone on his face, half in light, half in shadow, his expression fierce. Xinjiaoning, was that your doing? What letter? I tilted my head, looking innocent. Don't play dumb with me. How did something from my study end up in the main hall? How should I know what belongs to the Marquis? I looked him in the eye, unblinking. If the Marquis suspects me, he can investigate. If he finds something, I will accept punishment. If not, the Marquis owes me an explanation. He stared at me for a long time. I met his gaze, my heart at peace. He couldn't find anything. The letter had been borrowed from his study by my shadow guard, copied, and returned. The original was untouched, without a trace. As for how those pages ended up in the envelope, The envelope was addressed to Minister Liu of the Ministry of War, whom he had brought with him. He had brought a letter from the ministry. Someone else added something to it. What did that have to do with him? Lu Yanzhou's fists clenched and unclenched. What are you trying to do, Marquis? I stepped closer, the moonlight on my face. I gave him the most harmless smile I could muster. I am the Marquis's legitimate wife. If the Marquis is well, then I am well. Everything I do is for the Marquis's good. For my good. For example, my handling of Lady Lu's matter, that was for the Marquis's good. His pupils contracted. What do you mean? Has the Marquis ever wondered how a woman who just entered the mansion a month ago could make the entire household submit to her? The nannies, the maids, the guards, why are they all afraid of her? An orphan without any backing, by what power? Lu Yanzhou said nothing. I was only stating facts. In 1 month, Lu Qingwan had taken control of the household accounts and personnel, even winning over the old madam. How could that happen without some power behind her? But that power was none other than Lu Yanzhou himself. He had given her his affection, his authority, his protection. I had just changed the wording. Are you saying? I am saying nothing. I stepped back and curtsied. It's late, Marquis. Rest early. Tomorrow you have business at the Ministry of War. I turned and walked away. He stood alone in the moonlight, brow furrowed. Over the following days, the winds in the mansion shifted quietly. First, the kitchen stopped following Lu Qingwan's orders. The stewardess came to me for approval on expenses. Little sister Qingwan is unwell, I said. Don't bother her with these matters. I'll handle them. Next, the security, after Wang Er disappeared. The guards had no leader. I asked my brother Shen Zhaoyan to send 2 of his own men to fill in temporarily. On loan, I said, but I didn't plan to return them. Then, the personnel, the spies Lu Qingwan had planted in various positions. I removed one by one, not by dismissing them outright, but by transferring them to remote estates. Promotion in name, but in truth, severed from her. By the time Lu Qingwan could walk again, Lotus Court had become an isolated island. She had no influence outside. She had no one to command outside. Only Chuanxing and 2 young maids remained. Even the nanny who massaged her legs I had sent into retirement, citing her advanced age. She panicked. And a panicked woman does foolish things. She began sending people out of the mansion frequently, ostensibly to buy medicine, cosmetics, fabric, but in truth, to meet Gu Yanji. The shadow guards reported daily. Lu sent someone to the southern part of the city again today, to deliver a letter to Gu Yanji. Lu had Chuanxing pawn a gold hairpin for 50 taels. Lu has been investigating my background, sending people to the Shin mansion to ask. Investigating me. Go ahead. You'll find nothing. I, Shin Zhaoning, have a clean slate. I've done nothing to be ashamed of. But Lu Qingwan's background, that I had laid bare. On the 7th day, Lu Qingwan could finally walk. She had herself helped, step by step, to my courtyard. She had lost weight. Her chin was pointy, her eyes sunken. She wore a pale white jacket. She looked like a flower withered by frost. The first thing she did was kneel. Sister. Qingwan was foolish before. I offended sister. Sister, in your great mercy, please forgive Qingwan. I helped her up. What are you doing? Dear, get up. The floor is cold. She wouldn't rise. Tears streaming. Sister, I'm nothing in this mansion anymore. The Marquis hasn't come to Lotus Court in 3 days. No one listens to me. Only sister still cares for me. I helped her to a chair and poured her tea. What are you saying? You are the Marquis's woman. No one would dare disrespect you. The Marquis is busy with official matters. The servants are out of line because I haven't taught them properly. Don't worry. Just focus on getting better. She took the tea, her hand still trembling. I watched her drink, counting to myself. 3, 2, 1. The cup slipped from her hands, fell, and shattered. What's wrong? I asked with concern. Nothing, nothing. She forced a smile. My hands are weak, weak with guilt. She hadn't come to pay respects. She had come to test me, to see how much I knew, what cards I held. She wouldn't get any answers from me, but her reaction told me she could sense the danger. The most terrifying thing for someone isolated on an island is not the storm but the silence. The feeling of nothing at all, the suffocation more frightening than any threat. She knew it was me, but she didn't know how I would kill her. That was enough. That night, Lu Yenzhou came to my courtyard, not summoned, but on his own. He bypassed the eastern wing and knocked directly on my door. Chui'er was removing my hair ornaments. She paused at the sound and looked at me. Open it. He stood in the doorway, holding a bottle of wine. His face was slightly flushed, his eyes bleary. You've been drinking. I rose to greet him. Chui'er, make some sobering soup. Don't bother. He stopped her, waved her out, then stumbled in and dropped onto a stool, setting the bottle on the table. Xinjiaoning. He said my full name, his breath alcoholic. Yes. Tell me the truth. He looked up at me, his eyes bloodshot, holding a complicated emotion. Was what happened at the lake you're doing? You're drunk. He slapped the table. The bottle jumped and fell. I've looked into it. Wang Er has vanished. Your brother's shadow guards are in the mansion. The tea Qingwan drank was sent by you. You planned everything. He had found out a lot. I was surprised, but he had only scratched the surface. He knew I had sent the tea, but he couldn't trace the powder of 3 days. He knew the shadow guards were in the mansion, but he couldn't see that they were protecting Zhaoer, not harming Lu Qingwan. Everything stopped at the border of evidence. Marquis, I sent the tea because I care for Qingwan's health. The shadow guards are here because my brother loves Zhaoer and worries about him. As for Wang Er, I don't know anyone by that name. I enunciated each word. If the Marquis wants to convict me, produce evidence. If not, trust me. He stared at me for a long time. His eyes shifted from anger to confusion. From confusion to something else I had never seen. Xinjiaoning. His voice dropped. Barely audible. You weren't like this before. Before is before. The old you would cry, scream, throw teacups at me, cut my clothes with scissors. Everything was written on your face. I could read you at a glance. He stood, staggering to stand before me. Now, I can't read you at all. He reached out to touch my face. I didn't flinch. His hand stopped an inch from my cheek, then dropped. Never mind. He turned. I'm leaving. Marquis. I called. He stopped. Didn't look back. Walls have ears. I said. Sooner or later, what the Marquis has done will be known. He didn't answer. He opened the door and left. Chui'er entered with the sobering soup, looked at the empty doorway, then at me. Madam. The Marquis left. Yes. Then this soup. Drink it yourself. She took a cautious sip, then asked, Madam, what did your last words mean? I removed the remaining pins from my hair. Nothing in particular. What if he finds out? Finds out what? I set the white jade hairpin on my vanity, watching it gleam in the candlelight. He has his secrets in my hands. I have support at my back. He has no evidence. I have witnesses. This game, he lost the day he chose Lu Qingwan over Zhaoer. But madam, the Marquis is still the Marquis. If he, Chui'er. I looked at her in the mirror and smiled. Do you know when a person is most vulnerable? She shook her head. Not when they are weakest. When they think they are strongest. I put the pin away. He thinks he is the master of this house. He doesn't know that all his secrets are in my hands. That I see every move he makes. That I know every weakness he has. He thinks we are playing chess. He doesn't know he's just a piece on my board. I blew out the candle. Darkness covered the room. Outside, the moon was bright. Tomorrow, time to visit the southern part of the city again. Gu Yenji must have been waiting impatiently. Lu Qingwan's morning sickness came 3 days earlier than I had expected. It was the 2nd day of September, a crisp autumn day. The old madam was conducting a Buddhist ceremony in the shrine. Everyone in the mansion came to pay respects. When I arrived with Chui'er, Lu Qingwan was already kneeling on a cushion. She wore a loose pale yellow jacket that hid her figure, but her face was sallow, dark circles under her eyes, as if she hadn't slept for 3 days. After the old madam recited a passage, everyone bowed. As she bent, Lu Qingwan abruptly covered her mouth. She managed to hold it in, but a muffled sound escaped, and she swallowed back whatever had risen. Chuanqing quickly handed her a handkerchief. She pressed it to her mouth, her shoulders trembling. No one else noticed. I did, no. I had been waiting for it. After the ceremony, Lu Qingwan fled the shrine. I watched from a distance as she leaned against a wall, retching. Chuanqing crouched to pat her back. Tears streamed down her face. She could barely stand, standing at the corner of the corridor, watching. I let a small smile curl my lips. In my past life, her morning sickness hadn't appeared until the 12th of September. By then, she had crushed me so thoroughly I hadn't the presence of mind to notice her body. It was only when she got careless and vomited in front of the old madam that she revealed herself. In this life, I had helped it along. The 40 strokes had weakened her, and her body, weakened, reacted more strongly. I turned back to my courtyard and called for Chuyer. Go invite Imperial Physicians Li, Wang, and Zhang. Tell them I'm unwell and ask them to come for a consultation. Chuyer blinked. Where are you unwell? Madam, I'm fine. I sat and took up my teacup. But don't say that. Say I'm unwell. When they arrive, ask if they would mind seeing Lady Lu as well. On the way, I sipped my tea. Some things, done too deliberately, appear false. On the way. That was the perfect word. It made me sound like a sister always thinking of her sibling. Chuyer went. I had the shadow guard gather all the documents on Lu Qingwan's background. The betrothal contract. The letters between her and Gu Yanji. I put them in a sandalwood box. In my past life, it had taken me 3 years to piece this together. In this life, it took only 7 days. Because I knew exactly where to look, whom to ask, which records to consult. That was the true gift of rebirth, not foreseeing the future, but knowing the answers and working backward. The physicians arrived quickly. Imperial Physician Li was head of the Imperial Medical Institute. Imperial Physician Wang specialized in women's ailments. Imperial Physician Zhang was a student of a descendant of the Medicine King Valley. I had chosen them deliberately. They examined me first. I was perfectly healthy. My pulse calm. My energy abundant. Imperial Physician Li stroked his beard and said, "The madam is in good health. No medicine needed. I am grateful for your trouble. Since you have come, may I trouble you to see Lady Lu? She has been unwell since entering the mansion, and she took a fall recently. I am truly worried." The physicians exchanged glances and nodded. I led them to Lotus Court. Lu Qingwan lay on her bed, her face pale as paper. When she heard the physicians had come, her first reaction wasn't gratitude, it was fear. So obvious. She sat up abruptly, clutching the bed covers, her eyes wide. "Don't be afraid." I walked to her bedside and took her hand. "They are here to see you. You look so pale." I was worried. "No, it's not necessary. Sister, I'm fine, just didn't sleep well." Her voice trembled. Her gaze darted like a cornered mouse. "Even so, let them see you." I held her hand firmly, preventing her from pulling away. "Imperial Physician Li, please." Imperial Physician Li stepped forward and felt her pulse. The room fell silent. Imperial Physician Li frowned again, switched hands, and felt again. Then he glanced at Imperial Physician Wang, who also took her pulse. Then Imperial Physician Zhang. All three took turns, then huddled together to discuss. Lu Qingwan's face turned from pale to gray. She knew she carried a child, but she didn't know that the child's timing would be her doom. Imperial Physician Li turned, cleared his throat, and spoke. "Madam, Lady Lu's pulse is a slippery pulse." "A slippery pulse." I raised my voice, just enough to sound surprised. "You mean Lady Lu is with child?" "Yes. The pulse is clear. She is about 2 months pregnant." 2 months. Her eyes flickered. She had been in the mansion just over 1 month. 2 months pregnant meant the child was conceived before she entered the mansion. 2 months. I repeated, my tone shifting from surprise to confusion. I looked at Lu Qingwan. "Little sister, you have been here just over 40 days. How can you be 2 months pregnant?" Lu Qingwan's mouth opened and closed. No sound coming out. Chuanqing fell to her knees, her face ashen. The 3 physicians were not fools. They had seen enough. Imperial Physician Li bowed, preparing to leave. Imperial Physician Wang gathered his things. Imperial Physician Zhang looked at the floor. "Please wait." I called them back. I would ask you to bear witness to this matter. It is not that I do not trust you, but it involves the bloodline of the Ho mansion. There can be no ambiguity. Imperial Physician Li's beard trembled. What does the madam wish us to witness? The timing of Lady Lu's pregnancy. I enunciated each word. 2 months pregnant. But she entered the mansion 40 days ago. The Marquis was at the border 2 months ago. Not in the capital. This child cannot be the Marquis. The words cut through the silence like a blade. Chuyer gasped. Chuanqing collapsed. Lu Qingwan seemed to deflate. Her eyes unfocused. Her lips white. I turned to Chuyer. Go invite the Marquis and the old madam. Tell them there is an urgent matter and ask them to come to Lotus Court immediately. Chuyer ran. Lu Qingwan finally found her voice. Sister, you set me up. You set me up. I looked down at her. My smile was gentle, but my eyes held no warmth. What are you saying? I invited the physicians to see you. The pregnancy was discovered by them. I am just confirming the state of your health. How is that setting you up? On purpose, you did this on purpose. You knew, you invited them today on purpose. I invited them today because I felt unwell. It was only right that they see you too. Do you suspect I conspired with the physicians against you? I turned to Imperial Physician Li. Dr. Li, have you ever conspired with me? Imperial Physician Li's face was black as a pot. I have practiced medicine for 30 years and have never engaged in such sordid affairs. If Lady Lu doubts my diagnosis, she is welcome to seek another opinion. Lu Qingwan had no words left. Only the sound of her breathing and the rustle of leaves outside. Within 15 minutes, Lu Yenzhou and the old madam arrived. Lu Yenzhou ran, still in his armor, still carrying official papers. When he burst in, his first look was at Lu Qingwan. Then he saw the 3 physicians. Then Chuanqing kneeling on the floor. Then the sandalwood box in my hands. His expression changed. What happened? I said nothing. Imperial Physician Li repeated the diagnosis. The slippery pulse. 2 months. 40 days in the mansion. The child was not the Marquis. Imperial Physician Li had said, about 2 months. I changed it to, not the Marquis. The facts were the facts. Lu Yenzhou had been at the border 2 months ago. Short of teleportation, he could not have fathered a child on her before she entered the mansion. His face went through shades, red to white to pale to a near livid purple. He strode to her bed, seized her collar, and lifted her. Whose child is this? Lu Qingwan's tears flooded out. She clutched his wrist, her nails breaking the skin. Marquis. Marquis, let me explain, it's not what it seems. They conspired against me. This child is yours, it's really yours. Mine. Lu Yenzhou's voice was a whisper of pure fury. I was at the border 2 months ago. Tell me, how did you get pregnant with my child? Did I visit you in a dream? Or do I have the power of teleimpregnation? The words were crude, but no one laughed. Lu Qingwan could barely breathe through her sobs. Over and over. It's yours, it's really yours, they framed me. The old madam sat with her eyes closed, her prayer beads clicking fast. The sound like a death knell. Yenzhou. She spoke quietly, but the room fell silent. Let her go. He let go. Lu Qingwan fell back onto the bed, coughing, zhouning. The old madam turned to me. What is that you have there? Evidence. Grandmother. I presented the box with both hands. I can no longer keep silent. I have felt for some time that Lu Qingwan's entry into the mansion was suspicious. I asked my brother to investigate. What he found, I found shocking. The old madam opened the box and read through the documents slowly, carefully. When she finished, she set the papers on the table and sighed. Lu Qingwan, originally Lu Tsuea, daughter of a concubine of the Lu family of Lingnan. The Lu family was raided for treason 3 years ago and exiled. You concealed your identity as a traitor's descendant to enter the Ho mansion, already a crime against the throne. You were betrothed to Gu Yenji, the legitimate son of the Gu family. Before entering the mansion, you lived with him for half a month. You have continued to meet him in secret since. The child in your belly is Gu Yenji's. Her voice was terrifyingly calm. Lu Qingwan lay paralyzed, unable even to cry. Lu Yenzhou spun to look at me, his eyes red as blood. When did you investigate this? When the Marquis was at the border. I met his gaze. I was alone in the mansion with nothing to do. I asked my brother to look into it. I was curious how a woman as ethereal as this appeared so suddenly. I never expected to find what I found. Every word was true, but carefully clipped. I hadn't investigated while he was at the border. I'd investigated on the first day of my rebirth. But the Marquis wasn't in the mansion. That was the perfect excuse. You should have told me. The Marquis was fighting at the border. How could I disturb him with trivial matters? I lowered my voice. I intended to wait for his return to speak. But now that the doctors have discovered the pregnancy, I cannot delay. To do so would make me unfaithful and disloyal. Unfaithful and disloyal. He had no comeback. He couldn't fault me for investigating. It was right to do so. He couldn't fault me for silence. I didn't want to disturb him. He couldn't fault me for speaking in public. I had been forced by circumstance. Every step a clear strategy. He knew I had done it. But he couldn't find fault. Where is Gu Yenji? Lu Yenzhou asked. Willow Floss Lane. In the south. Does the Marquis want to see him? He drew his sword. Marquis. I stopped him. Killing him won't change the facts. The important thing now is, what do we do with Lu Qingwan? His sword paused halfway out of the scabbard. He looked at Lu Qingwan. In his eyes were all the emotions of a cuckolded man: anger, shame, disgust, hatred, and a hint of heartbreak he might not have acknowledged. She was his first love, the one he had longed for during his years at the border, the one for whom he had defied his family to bring her into the mansion. He thought she was the most worthwhile rebellion of his life. And now, she was a fraud, carrying another man's bastard, sleeping under his nose for 40 days. A cuckold's grave is the deepest, I said softly. Lu Qingwan convulsed. No, no. Marquis. No. She crawled off the bed, dragged herself to his feet, clinging to his legs, tears and snot covering her face. Marquis. I was wrong. I was forced. Gu Yenji forced me. He said if I didn't marry you, he would reveal I was a traitor's daughter. I had no choice. Marquis. Believe me, I love you. I can get rid of the child. I'll do it now, just don't kill me. Lu Yenzhou looked down at her. His expression shifted, anger to hesitation. Hesitation to wavering. Wavering to pity. I saw it. My heart clenched. In my past life, he had been the same. Every time she made a mistake, he would get angry, then hesitate, then waver, then pity, then forgive, over and over, until Zhaoer died, until I died. In this life, he was still the same. He would never change. Marquis. I spoke, my tone unhurried. Lu Qingwan carries Gu Yenji's child, not the Marquis'. If she remains in this mansion, word will spread and tarnish the Marquis' reputation. Moreover, she is the daughter of a traitor. Harboring her is a taboo. If this were reported, the entire Ho mansion would be implicated. I walked to his side, looking up into his eyes. The Marquis can pity her, but the Marquis must also consider the hundreds of people in this household. His throat moved. He knew I was right. He was Jin Yuan Ho, the head of the Lu family. Every decision he made would affect the fate of the entire clan. To risk everything for one woman, not worth it. Send her to the estate, he said at last, his voice rasping. Never to return. Lu Qingwan shrieked. No, I won't go. Marquis, you can't do this to me. You said you would never betray me. You said it. He turned away. Someone, I called, pack Lady Lu's belongings. She will leave tonight. Chuanqing will accompany her. No one else. Chuanqing collapsed. Two servants dragged Lu Qingwan out. As they took her away, she screamed. Her voice carried across the courtyard, through the halls, past the entire mansion, fading only at the side gate. Xinjiaoning, you'll die a horrible death. You'll get what's coming. I'll haunt you even in death. Retribution. I stood at the entrance of Lotus Court, watching her disappear into the night, and smiled. I had already died once. What retribution could be worse? Lu Yenzhou stood behind me in silence. Satisfied? He asked. I turned to look at him. In the moonlight, his face looked tired, the lines at his eyes deeper, the furrow in his brow carved like a scar, his lips turned down. He looked like a child wronged by the world. Marquis, I said, I only did what I had to. Her fall was not my doing, nor the Marquis's. It was her own misdeed. You knew, didn't you? The day of the banquet. You knew. You had me punish her. You knew she was carrying a child. I did not know. I said, if I had known, I wouldn't have invited physicians to see her. Would the Marquis think me fool enough to call doctors to expose a secret I already knew? I had trapped him again. Yes, if I had known. Why expose it so soon? Wouldn't it have been crueler to let her give birth, then expose her adultery once the child was born? What he didn't know was that I had wanted the public exposure. I wanted everyone to see that the pure moonlight he cherished was nothing but a slut. His taste, nothing special. Zhao. He called my name, very softly. Yes. You've changed. Many things change. Marquis. I turned toward my courtyard. For better or worse. They're forced to. He stood there for a long while. I didn't look back. When I reached my courtyard, I closed the door. Chuyer had hot water ready. I sat in the bath, the water covering my chest, and finally let out a long breath. Lu Qingwan was gone, 2 years earlier than in my past life. But the account was not yet settled. Lu Yenzhou's account remained. Not once had he asked about Zhao. When Lu Qingwan was exposed, he had felt anger, pity, hesitation, wavering, heartbreak. But he had not thought, even once, about what she had done to his son. He didn't know about her plot at the lake banquet. He didn't know about Wang Er. He didn't know how close his son had come to dying. Because he had never truly cared for Zhao. A father who doesn't care for his son deserves no forgiveness. I got out of the bath, dried myself, and sat at my writing desk. The sandalwood box was missing one thing. The evidence against Lu Qingwan had been used. But Lu Yenzhou's ledger remained. Defalcation, illegal trade, bribery and sale of office, each entry enough to destroy him. I opened the ledger, turned to the last page, and wrote a line. Give me a divorce within 3 days, or it's the Court of Judicial Review. Dali Temple, the Supreme Court of Ancient China. That was my ultimatum. But not now. First, I would visit the southern part of the city. Gu Yanji, his woman was gone, her child still in her belly. What he would do would determine the next move on this board. Gu Yanji was gone. I stood in his empty courtyard, looking at a letter on the stone table, and a 100-tael note underneath. The letter had only 3 lines. Madam Shen, I have taken Suya. I will raise the child. Farewell. Never to meet again. I have taken. Not. I have gone to find. He had come to her in her darkest moment, telling her, you still have me. Whether she would go with him was another matter. Given what I knew of her, she would. She had nowhere else. The mansion was closed to her. Her identity as a trader's daughter was a death sentence. The child in her belly wouldn't wait. He was her only lifeline. I folded the letter into my sleeve and turned to leave. Chuyer followed, unable to hold back. Madam, will she really go with him? Yes. Why? Because she's afraid to die. I stepped into the carriage. She has a child in her belly. Drowning would kill too. He's her only way out. Not even she would choose death. The carriage rumbled away. 3 days after Lu Qingwan was sent away, Lu Yenzhou came to my courtyard. This time, he didn't hesitate. He pushed the door open directly. Chuyer was brushing my hair. He took the brush from her and motioned for her to leave. She looked at me. I nodded. She withdrew. In the bronze mirror, I saw us both. I sat. He stood. He brushed my hair, from crown to ends. Slowly, gently, as if caressing something fragile. Does the Marquis have business with me? I asked from the mirror. Can I not come without business? His voice was rough, with a studied gentleness. The Marquis is always busy. He wouldn't come for no reason. I have nothing urgent here. You should attend to your duties. He set down the brush, put his hands on my shoulders, and leaned down, his face near my ear. Zhao, I want to make a proper life with you. I looked at his reflection. His expression was earnest. His brows relaxed. The corners of his lips slightly lifted. In his eyes was a warmth I hadn't seen in a long time. When this man let his guard down, he was good-looking. Sharp brows and clear eyes. A tall nose. The young general was still there beneath the surface. Make a proper life. I repeated. Yes. What happened with Qingwan is over. I've closed Lotus Court. Whatever you need. Tell me. You'll choose Zhao's tutor. You'll manage the household. What a light word. Over. As if discussing the weather. As if changing a cup of cold tea. A woman had slept by his side for 40 days. Carrying another man's child. She had nearly ruined his reputation and his clan. Over. My heart was unmoved. Marquis. Lu Qingwan may be gone. But the matter is not over. I gently pushed his hands away. Stood. And went to my writing desk. I opened the sandalwood box. Took out a sheaf of papers. And set them before him. These belong to the Marquis. I have been keeping them for him. Now they are returned. He came over. Looked down. And his face changed. The defalcations. The illegal trade. The bribes. Every page stamped with his seal. Every entry clear. One copy to the Court of Judicial Review. And the entire home mansion would be wiped out. His fingers pressed into the paper. Knuckles white. Xinjiaoning. Yes. How did these come into your possession? I kept them for you. I smiled. Lu Qingwan's affairs involved so many people. I feared someone might take advantage of the chaos to steal. So I removed the Marquis' documents from his study. I did it for the Marquis' good. For the Marquis' good. Those 5 words. Used countless times against me. Always as an excuse to hurt me. Today, I returned them. His eyes reddened, not with emotion, but with fury. Do you know the penalty for this? Stealing classified documents, death. Would the Marquis have me killed? I tilted my head, my smile unchanged. Then I'll bring these to the Court of Judicial Review and let them judge. Does a wife taking papers from her husband's study count as theft? Besides, I cut him off. I didn't steal them. The Marquis dropped them himself. When did I? At the banquet. When you were hosting your old comrades. A letter fell from your sleeve. Do you remember? Those pages were tucked inside that letter. I was right there. I picked them up and put them away for you. He went through a rapid transformation, red to white to purple. He remembered. At the banquet. When I was pouring wine. He had dropped a letter. His subordinate had seen the pages. He had stuffed them into his sleeve and never found them. They were with me. They had been with me since the beginning. Xinjiaoning, what do you really want? His voice dropped, almost pleading. I took the divorce document from my drawer and set it before him. Divorce. Give Zhao a clean identity. You walk your road. I'll walk mine. The document was a single page. The handwriting neat. No emotion. No grievance. No grudges. Only the bare legal terms. The marriage had soured. The parties agreed to divorce. Their son, Lu Zhao, would live with his mother. Her dowry would be returned. Each would be free to remarry. He stared at it as if rooted to the spot. You want a divorce? Because of Lu Qingwan? No. Then why? Because you don't deserve to be Zhao's father. The room was so quiet I could hear the candle wax popping. The candle had burned low. Droplets hardening on the brass plate. Lu Yanzhou's eyes reddened. Zhaoning, I know I've wronged you. I was a fool about Qingwan. I admit it. But Zhao is my son. You can't take him away. Your son. I laughed so hard tears came. Lu Yanzhou, when have you ever treated Zhao as your son? When he was born, you were at the border. When he was a month old, you were at the border. When he was a year old, you were at the border. When he called Papa for the first time, you were in Lu Qingwan's bed. I took a step closer. He stepped back. You don't even know what he likes to eat. He likes osmanthus cakes. Have you ever bought him one? He's scared of thunder. Where were you on stormy nights? When he was pushed into the water and cried for Papa, did you hear him? He backed against the wall. No way to retreat. Did you hear him? I asked again, my voice low, but each word driving into his bones. His lips trembled. That wasn't my fault. I didn't know Zhao was also in the water. You did. I said. You turned and looked. You saw his hand. You heard his voice. You chose not to save him, because you thought he could swim. Because you thought Lu Qingwan couldn't. Because you thought a 3-year-old in deep water could save himself. The tears fell. I thought I had no more tears for him. But when I spoke of Zhao, they came against my will. Lu Yanzhou, do you know? He couldn't swim at all. He hit his head when he fell. He was unconscious from the start. That cry of Papa was the last word he ever said. His knees gave way. He knelt before me, just as he had in the side courtyard in my past life, fast, hard. His knees struck the floor with a dull thud. Jouning. He took my hand, pressing his face into my palm, his tears running through my fingers. Please, give me another chance. Too late. It's not too late. Zhao is still here, still safe. We can be a family again. Just one chance, I swear. What are your vows worth? I pulled my hand away, looking down at him. You swore to Lu Qingwan that you would never betray her. Did you keep that vow? He was silent. You swore to me, on our wedding night. You said you would be good to me. Did you keep that vow? He closed his eyes. Your vows are worthless, Lu Yanzhou. But my son is not. I won't let Zhao grow up with a father who doesn't care for him. He won't remember you. He won't miss you. He won't look for you. He will take the name Shin. He will call my parents grandfather and grandmother. His name will be entered in the Shin ancestral hall. Your Lu family line, he won't be the one to continue it. You can't. His voice was almost inaudible. He's my son. He is my son. I enunciated each word. I gave him birth. I raised him. I'm taking him. You have no right to refuse. I took the brush from the desk and pressed it into his hand. Sign. His hand shook. Ink dripped from the tip, staining the paper, a round black spot, like a drop of blood. Sign. Lu Yanzhou. Or tomorrow. These documents will be on the Court of Judicial Review's desk. You choose. He had no choice. Or rather, he had no good choice. The brush met the paper with a soft scratch. He signed. Lu Yanzhou, 3 characters. Crooked. Like a child copying shapes. I looked at those 3 characters, unsure how I felt. In my past life, I had waited 3 years for this divorce document. I waited until I died. And it never came. In this life, he signed it, quickly, easily. He hadn't been willing to let me go 3 years ago. Today, he did, not because he had changed, but because he had no other option. I put the document into the sandalwood box. Marquis, no. Lu Yanzhou. I changed my address. From now on, we are strangers. You owe nothing for Zhao. I will take nothing from the Ho mansion. My dowry will go with me. As for those ledgers, I glanced at him. I will keep them secret. Not for you. For Zhao. He once bore the Lu name. If you fall, he will share the shame. But if you come near us again, I will show you what regret means. He remained on his knees. I walked to the door and opened it. Chui'er stood outside, holding a large bundle. Chui'er, get someone to move my things. Everything on the dowry list, not one piece missing. Nothing not on the list, not one extra. Yes, madam. The courtyard filled with people, guards, servants, maids, all sent by my brother. I walked through the halls, the garden, the main gate. My steps were steady. I didn't look back. Chui'er held Zhao by the carriage. He was so sleepy his eyes were barely open, but when he saw me, he grinned, reaching out his chubby arms. Mama, hold me. I took him in my arms. His body was light and warm, a little heater against my chest. Zhao, Mama is taking you home. Home. He rubbed his eyes. We're not living here anymore. No. What about Papa? Papa has his own things to do. From now on, Zhao lives with Mama, with Uncle, with grandfather and grandmother. Is that all right? Okay. He agreed without a moment's hesitation, then yawned, rested his head on my shoulder, and closed his eyes. No why, no tears, no tantrum, no regret. At 3, a child goes with whoever treats him well. Lu Yanzhou had been in his life for 3 years. It was as if he had never been there at all. I got into the carriage with Zhao. Chui'er lowered the curtain. The carriage began to move. I didn't lift the curtain to look back at the mansion where I had lived for 6 years. I didn't want to. I had no reason to. There was nothing there worth missing. 6 years of marriage. 3 years of endurance. 1 life, for a sheet of paper. Was it worth it? Zhao was alive. That was enough. The carriage left the mansion's alley and turned onto Vermilion Bird Avenue. Street vendors called out their wares, sugar-coated hawthorn, fried chestnuts, wonton sellers, their voices rising and falling. Zhaor stirred, murmuring, "Sugar-coated hawthorn. Stop," I called. Chuyer bought a stick. Zhaor took it, bit one, puckered at the sourness, then laughed, showing 2 rows of teeth coated in syrup. He leaned against the window, eating, watching the streetlights pass. The light flickered on his face. "Mama." "Yes." "Does Papa not like me?" My hand stilled. "Why do you ask?" "Zhaor. He doesn't hold me. He doesn't play with me. He never buys me candy." He looked down at the half-eaten stick. "The girl next door says her father holds her every day and even gives her horsey rides." I pulled him into my arms, my chin on his head. "Papa does like Zhaor. Papa just doesn't know how to be a papa. Can he learn?" "No," I said, "but you don't need him to. Zhaor has mama, has uncle, has grandfather and grandmother. Lots of people love Zhaor. Is that enough?" He thought, then gave a little nod. "Okay." Then he yawned, abandoned the rest of his candy, curled into my chest, and closed his eyes. I looked down at his sleeping face, long lashes, tiny nose, slightly pouting lips, and a smear of syrup at the corner of his mouth. In my past life, this face was a ghost in my memory, the blue-tinged skin, the half-open eyes, the little embroidered pouch clenched in his hand, a nightmare every time I recalled it. In this life, his face was pink, he drooled when he slept, burrowed into me when he had bad dreams, smiled with crescent eyes when he ate something sweet. A living, crying, laughing, playing child. My child. I would raise him well. He would grow into a man to be reckoned with, not like Lu Yenzhou. Like Shen Zhaoning's son. The carriage stopped before the Shen mansion. I stepped out with Zhaor in my arms. The steps were lit with lanterns. My brother Shen Zhaoyan stood at the gate, wearing a dark robe. Behind him stood my father, my mother, and dozens of others. "Welcome home." My brother took Zhaor, holding him in one arm, and patted my shoulder with the other. "It's good to have you back." My mother rushed over, embraced me, and sobbed. "My girl, you've gotten so thin. Did that cursed Lu Yenzhou not feed you?" "Mother, I'm fine." I patted her back. "I'm home. Zhaor is home. We're not going anywhere else." My father stood in the doorway, hands behind his back, his lips trembling. Finally, he managed a gruff, "Good that you're back. This house always has an extra seat at the table." I laughed, and as I laughed, tears came again. Shen Zhaoyan walked inside with Zhaor, murmuring, "Boy, when you're bigger, I'll teach you to ride. I've got a little pony, very gentle, 100 times better than that Lu fellow." Zhaor shifted in his arms, muttered something, and went back to sleep. The family crowded into the main hall. The lanterns made the house as bright as day. I walked last. At the threshold, I looked out at the night, toward Vermilion Bird Avenue, where the Ho mansion was only a distant shadow. Lu Yenzhou. In this lifetime, I will never set foot in that place again. As for you, what you owe Zhaor, what you owe me, the heavens will collect. 3 years later, late spring, the 3rd year of the Yong'an era of Daliang, the capital spoke of 2 things. First, the grand wedding of the regent, who had married Shen Zhaoning, the former mistress of the Zhenyuan Ho mansion. Second, the fall of the Zhenyuan Ho mansion, the Marquis, Lu Yenzhou, had been sentenced to death for defalcation of military pay and illegal trade with enemy merchants. His family was scattered, exile, sale, ruin. Both events happened in the same month. The people of the capital relished the gossip, and storytellers in tea houses had turned the tale into a book, titled Lotus Grievance. 2 shows a day, every seat full. I never went to hear it, but Chuyer did. She returned with red, swollen eyes. The storyteller made the part about the young heir's drowning so tragic, the whole room was weeping. She wiped her eyes. "Madam, no. Your Highness, how does the storyteller know so much? He even knew what the young heir cried out when he fell into the water." I was sitting at my vanity, removing my ornaments. I smiled but said nothing. Of course the storyteller knew, because those details had been spread by Chuyer's cousin, a waiter at a tea house. Not just the storyteller. All of the capital talked. They spoke of the Marquis who favored his concubine and wronged his wife, of Lu Qingwan, who had schemed to kill the young heir of Lu Yenzhou, who had watched his son drown. The stories were vivid, with unmistakable details, down to the color of Zhao's jacket and the flower embroidered on its collar. Public opinion is molten metal. Accumulated slander can dissolve bone. I didn't need to act. Spit could drown a man. Chui'er was still wiping tears when a call came from outside. Mama. The door pushed open, and Zhao ran in, wearing a green jacket. At 4 years old, he had grown, with a hint of manliness already in his brows, though the baby fat still rounded his cheeks. When he smiled, his dimples were as deep as ever. He ran and launched himself at me, holding up his treasure. Mama, Uncle gave me a wooden sword. Look, it was a neatly carved wooden sword, with a character, Zhao, on its hilt. Beautiful. Did you thank him? Yes. Uncle said in 2 more years, he'll teach me a real sword. A real sword. Xin Zhaoyan, you dare. Mama, are we really moving to the regent's mansion tomorrow? Yes. From now on, that will be our home. What about Papa? He looked at me, asking the same question he had asked countless times over 3 years. Each time I had given a different excuse. Today, I wouldn't. Zhao, your papa doesn't live with you. You live with Mama, with Uncle, with grandfather and grandmother. And later, I paused. Later, you might have a new papa. A new papa. He tilted his head. Do you mean the tall, big uncle? The one who was riding the big horse on the street. He was talking about Zhao Mingcheng, the regent. Our meeting was simple. Shortly after I returned to the Shen mansion, my brother was promoted to commander of the Imperial Guards. He met Zhao Mingcheng from time to time. One day, Zhao Mingcheng came to the Shen mansion. I was flying a kite with Zhao in the garden. A gust snapped the string, and the kite caught in a tree. I stood on tiptoe, but couldn't reach. Zhao Mingcheng came over, reached up to free the kite, and crouched down to hand it to Zhao. That was all. A tiny gesture. Nothing more. But he crouched. The regent, beneath whom all others knelt, had crouched to hand a kite to a 3-year-old child. I stood nearby, watching his crouching form, and felt something I couldn't name. It wasn't emotion. It was confirmation that there were men in this world who would bend for a child. After that, he came often. Not to see my brother, to see me. He was a man of few words, never staying long. A cup of tea, a few sentences, and sometimes a small gift for Zhao, a bag of candy, a box of pastries, a little wooden sword, like the one in Zhao's hand now. I took the sword and looked more closely. On the hilt was a character, Zhao, but it wasn't my brother's handwriting. It was Zhao Mingcheng's. He had carved it. The lines were crooked, as if by someone who had never used a carving knife, gouging into the wood with sheer effort. But he had carved it. Mama. Zhao tugged my sleeve. What's wrong? Nothing. I gave him back the sword. Come. Your uncle said he's giving us a farewell dinner. The next day, the regent's mansion. The dowry procession stretched 10 li, more lavish than when I had married into the Zhenyuan Ho mansion. My mother held my hand and wept the whole way, how I had finally come home only to leave again. How the regent was too powerful. What if he mistreated me? How the family would look down on me for bringing a child. Mother, I interrupted her. If he had a problem with Zhao, I wouldn't marry him. But he might. He doesn't. She wiped her tears. And what will people say? You marrying him with a child in tow? What people say is not my concern. I smoothed her collar. Mother, in my past life, no. Before, I lived by others' words, and it made me a joke. In this life, I live for myself. The bridal sedan stopped before the regent's gate. The curtain lifted, and a hand reached in, long-fingered. The palm calloused from years of holding swords. But this hand was steady, not hurried, waiting for me to place mine in it. I put my hand in his. He held it, not grasping tightly, as if claiming ownership, but loosely, as if holding something fragile. The pressure was just enough to let me feel its warmth, but not enough to hurt. When I stepped down, I looked up. Zhao Mingcheng wore a deep red wedding robe that made his features seem even more defined. He was 32, 2 years older than Lu Yenzhou, but appeared younger, not in appearance, but in his clean, steady presence. Like a deep lake, no ripples. But you knew there were currents beneath. He wasn't smiling. He was just looking at me. His gaze quiet and certain. Let's go. 2 words. Nothing more. I followed him over the brazier, into the main hall. The room was full. My brother sat on the groom's side, winking at me. Chuyer held Xiaoer, who wore a little red jacket and sat in a corner gnawing on pastries. Crumbs all over his face. The ceremony. The toasts. The wedding chamber. Everything by tradition. No surprises. No trouble. Until the guests left and we were alone. He sat by the table, drinking cup after cup. I sat on the bed, the phoenix crown heavy on my head, my neck aching, but I didn't want to speak first. After a long while, he set down his cup, rose, and came to me. Let me. His hand reached out, carefully removing the crown, each pin, each ornament, gentle, not pulling my hair. When the crown came off, I sighed with relief and rubbed my neck. He sat down beside me. Xinjiaoning. He said my full name, his voice low. I have something to say. Yes. I don't know how to say sweet things. He looked at his hands. I can't promise to be perfect to you, but I won't let you be wronged. Xiaoer, I will raise as my own. Your dowry, I won't touch it. You will manage the household. That was all. No grand vows. No eternal oaths. But I believed him. Not because of his words, but because of his actions. When he had crouched to pick up that kite, when he had carved that crooked character, when he had held my hand loosely, without force. A man who acts speaks louder than one who only talks. I know, I said. I trust you. He turned to look at me. There was light in his eyes. Sleep. He stood and moved toward the outer room. Wangye, I called. He turned. You'll sleep out there. Not used to sleeping with someone. I know, he said, slowly. The door closed. I sat alone in the wide wedding bed, the red canopy swaying gently in the candlelight. Outside, the moon was full, spilling silver through the curtains. I lay down and closed my eyes. On this day 3 years ago, I had sat in the Xin carriage with Xiaoer in my arms, thinking, it's fine to be alone. Today, I lay in the regent's wedding bed, and in the next room slept a man willing to take it slowly. I had waited, and found someone willing to bend. Wedding night. Sleeping apart. No one would believe it. But I believed it. I believed in his. Slowly. The next morning, when I woke, a branch of white plum blossoms lay on my pillow. Late spring, not the season for white plums. I didn't know where he had found them. I lifted the branch to my nose. The scent was faint, elusive. Like him. 2 knocks at the door. Wang Fei Chuer's voice. The Wangye is teaching the young heir swordplay in the courtyard. He sent me to tell you. I threw on a jacket and went out. In the courtyard, Xiaoer wore a green jacket and held his wooden sword, practicing with all his might. Zhao Mingqing stood behind him, guiding his hand, teaching the moves. Xiaoer's little face was tight with concentration, a light sweat on his brow. When he finished the set, Zhao Mingqing crouched to wipe his face, then took a paper package from his sleeve and opened it. 2 osmanthus cakes. Xiaoer's eyes lit up. Thank you, Papa. Papa. Not. Wangye. Not. Uncle. Papa. I stopped in my tracks. Xiaoer froze for a moment too, then looked back at me, his face uncertain. Zhao Mingqing handed him the cakes, touched his head, said nothing. Xiaoer took a big bite, his cheeks bulging. Papa. Eat. He offered the other cake to Zhao Mingqing. The regent took it, bit, chewed, and nodded. Good. Xiaoer grinned, his eyes crescents, his mouth sticky with cake. I leaned against a pillar, watching, my eyes warm. Zhao Mingqing must have felt my gaze. He looked up. In the morning light, his face seemed gilded, his features sharp but not severe, his eyes gentle as spring wind. He spoke to me, not loudly, but I heard clearly. Breakfast is ready. Come eat. I walked over. Xiaoer ran to me, hugging my legs. Mama, Papa's sword moves are so good. Do you want to see? Papa. He said it again, as naturally as if he had always said it. After breakfast, I bent and lifted him. Xiaoer, what did you call the Wangye? He blinked. Papa, you wanted to call him that? Yes. He nodded. Uncle said I can call him Papa if he is good to me. And he is very good to me. Shin Xiaoyan, we'll talk later. Zhao Mingcheng came over, took shower from me, and naturally took my hand with his free one. Let's go. Again. That word. His hand was large, wrapping around mine. The warmth of his palm came through my skin, not hot. Just right. Zhao made faces at me over his shoulder. He led me through the halls, through the garden, past flowering crabapples. The morning breeze carried the scent of blossoms and dew. 3 years ago, I thought there were things I would never have again: a hand to hold, a back to lean on, a child's voice calling someone Papa. Today, I had all of them. One yes, thank you. He didn't turn, but I saw the tips of his ears redden. The late spring wind scattered crabapple petals, falling on his shoulder, on Zhao's head, in my eyes. The tears of past and present, at last, became this scene before me. After listening to this story, what are your thoughts? Feel free to share your ideas in the comments. I look forward to hearing your voice.